and the primaries and not much else, right?
Yeah, this is kind of like a modified palette for landscapes. Just includes some of my most common colors I find myself always using when I paint landscapes. So I've got burnt umber, raw umber. So that's a warm brown, a cool brown, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, sap green, burnt sienna, chromium oxide green, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, buff titanium, and titanium white. And then my mixing medium, just some oil, some linseed oil.
Yeah. So with linseed oil, do you find that some colors dry at a radically different rate than others? Has that ever been an issue for you?
The browns, so any earthen colors like brown, any browns will dry a lot faster than some of the man-made colors, or some of the more oily colors. So yeah, if you just add linseed oil to everything across the board, it'll kind of even out the drying rate and make it all viscous enough to move around.
And what is that pretty much your every time kind of medium, linseed? And what is the reason for your preference?
You know, linseed's just your basic oil medium. You can do anything you want to do with it, and so it's just kind of like your basic no frills medium. It's widely available, it's easy to work with, and you can get more fancy, more exotic types of oils and mixtures to work with to produce certain working results that you may want. So you could have like a fast drying medium or a slower drying medium, or something more exotic that might have less yellowing, or I think walnut oil dries a lot clearer over time. So there's all kinds of different mediums you can use, but linseed oil is going to allow you to do everything you want to do.
Nice. Well, Gabe, have we got Nick pinned so that he's visible through the whole conversation?
I just, he's visible for everything. Do you want to split screen it or just have him on?
Oh, I mean, if I'm like little on the screen, that's fine. But I think mostly people are going to be interested in seeing what he's showing.
Cool. He's featured right now.
Okay.
And I've got a whole mess of chat room messages. If you want to let me read some off here, I've got.
Sure. Let's hear who's here.
Okay, so first up from the Reinventing crew, that's probably on the mobile app here, or on reinventing.com. We've got Jason. First up, Casey Ball says, I'm in. Hey, everyone. Jason's here. T-Von's here. He's still setting up, but he's excited for this. Matt Jackson says, hey, guys. Leo Gonzalez says, howdy. Melissa Sink says, evening all. Yeah, let's see here. Who else we've got? Then Bruno's on the YouTube channels says, oh, he's got a cheers, horns, and a funny grin emoji. Let's see. And then on the Facebooks, we've got Angel Rivera says, greetings from Tijuana, guy. Rock James Devrin says, got to watch Guy work at a tattoo convention in San Diego and Cali in 1994. It was still illegal in Massachusetts then. And James McClellan says, what's up? Pancho says, hello from Soranora Desert Brothers. Okay. Oh, Christopher Zangi tagged Dan Marshall, who's awesome. And then Jordan Lee Rukas says, as an emoji that's too small for me to read out. Anyways, thanks again for everybody for watching. It's a perfect time to share it around so that more people can watch, and I'll be in the background.
I'll tell you what, if we could ever get Dan Marshall to do a watercolor demonstration for us, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love that. So, all right, Nick, it looks like you're mixing your blue gradient range there. Want to tell us where we're at with your preparation?
Yeah, so I have a gessoed panel, and when you first joined the chat, I don't know, you may have noticed me just going back and forth with a brush. I was putting oil over the entire surface of the panel. So this entire panel has a very thin coat of linseed oil medium on it right now that will help my paint slide off my brush very easily and make for some really nice smooth gradients. It extends the working time of the paint, basically. It keeps it open and loose and sliding around longer.
It also is a way to, I always thought of it as just instead of mixing the oil or the medium on the palette and then applying it to the panel, that by just having the medium waiting there on the panel, you're just doing the dilution of the paint differently, but you end up with a similar mix that you would, but with less laboring.
Yes, exactly.
The medium on the panel will just grab the paint directly off your brush, and even a tiny amount, just a few molecules of color on your brush, you can work quite a bit.
Yep, that's a good way to put it. It makes your painting process way more efficient, and so that's always a good thing.
So it looks like you're mixing colors for the water surface there.
I'm mixing sky colors right now,
okay.
So, but of course the sky is going to be
surface,
reflected in the water, so it's all the same.
Yeah, the water surface. I'm just looking at the value of it really, and this is the part that my colorblind self is always mystified by, because I mean I can tell if it matches or not, kind of, mostly, but in order to like make it match, that's where I struggle. I just don't know what to put together to get each color, and I can get a kind of a broad scatter shot approximation that's good enough, but
yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of landscape painting in particular, it's such a forgiving genre because there's a vast range and variety of what our Earth does, as in terms of light and atmosphere. So,
yeah, very true. Told them that I'm painting too. So in addition to the people who have said hi in the chat room, Kaya Rose, our daughter, is painting as well, and since she's going to have an earlier bedtime than most of us, she's doing something that she can hammer out quick, more of a Bob Ross style landscape, and she's done a lot of these, and they're always really cool.
I don't use any reference most of the time. I just like go for it.
So she's in the house as well. And you know what, when I'm working a slightly larger panel or canvas like this one, rather than oiling down the entire surface, I'm kind of doing the same thing, but instead I'm just oiling the area that I'm going to work next, just so it doesn't I don't have to breathe as much of it. Yeah, the thing that caused me to give up on linseed oil was, I'm sure you've seen Lightform 10. It's that large sky painting with
It's really nice.
Vibrating kind of things going on. And I did an underpainting in acrylic. I was very careful not to let it build up to a glossy finish or anything like that. But I had just done another Lightform painting with a similar blue color scheme. It was sort of an underwater microscopic thing. And it was still like in the process of drying as I was painting that one. And it happened to both of them where all the blue, especially the lighter blue areas, it just didn't adhere. The oil didn't. And over the course of several years following, all of that oil just kind of gathered together into these little brown boogers here and there on the surface. And, whatever paint that they had carried, a lot of that kind of got gathered up with it. And so, yeah, no, it's going to need some restoration, unfortunately. And it's one of the reasons why, I mean, that particular painting is the main reason why I have gone almost entirely just to alkyd. It just feels like a more reliable, you know, same finish every time kind of medium.
Yeah, I used to use alkyd, and I started to have problems with the faster drying times.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. It's definitely a limitation, and if not for the fact that not for the fact that I'm not normally able to sit and paint for more than a couple of hours, you know, I think it would be a problem. But since that is my current reality, the 2.5 hour window is actually not bad for me.
Yeah.
Kaya wants me to show off her painting real quick. Here we go. It's looking pretty awesome, actually. She's been doing palette knife stuff. So yeah, here's hers. I think I might have directed you towards Lynn Bodges. Did you ever get a chance to check him out?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
You would, if you had seen his work, you'd remember. You know, I had always thought of palette knife painting as sort of a novelty before that, you know, kind of a gimmicky thing. But, you know, the landscapes that he does, they're very like, the thing that's neat about him is they're very human scale. He really likes creek beds, especially with a little snow and, you know, maybe even a little ice, but the water's still moving. And he's done well enough with his career that he's managed to buy a few hundred acres in West Virginia. And so he'll actually go out and build a platform with a roof so that, you know, if the snow is falling, it's not going to mess with his program.
Yeah.
And then the painting process itself is like a day. And man, I don't want to try to describe it verbally because I won't do it any justice, but it's got this uncanny realism that you would never expect from palette painting. Like the sense of being present at that place is really strong, despite the fact that it's clearly just big gobs of paint. You know, it's such a neat thing, you know, and I love that when something can be clearly a painting, but also have a real sense of realism.
Yeah, and that's like the hardest thing to do, is to be simultaneously loose and precise at the same time.
Yeah.
Am I doing that at all?
I think that the big thing is well, one of them anyway, is if you can nail your lighting. Because if you're super loose, but your lighting appears dead on, it's still going to have that realistic presence.
Yeah. Yeah, our eyes and our brain are intuitively trained to recognize, you know, to have a sort of calculation of how light hits an object and if it appears to have the proper dimension or not.
Yeah, in fact, I think that if it doesn't, we just don't even really register it as an object.
Yeah.
But you know, if it does to the point where our brain is fooled, and you know, it does that double take where you really have to stop and say, "Wait a minute, is that actually a painting?" That's you know, success. But especially if when you look at it, the brushwork is still really visible. And it's not this intensely labored over thing where there's not any visible brushwork at all.
Is mine the sensibility for that?
Yeah, I love the lighting on it. And you know, that's to me sort of a holy grail. And you know, of course, I'm nowhere near being able to do that. You know, every now and then I feel like I'll land, you know, a few brush strokes in a way where the bristles have just magically encoded a very realistic light and dark texture based on the direction of lighting that I'm trying to produce. And it's like, I'm nailing it, you know, but then it's this fleeting thing and I can't always capture that.
Yep.
A question in from the chat room. Jason's asking, please ask Nick if he usually tints his canvas with a mid-tone or if he keeps it white before painting.
For landscapes, I usually don't tint it because there's some great like luminosity and kind of sunlight effects you can do with a bright white canvas. Like here on my reference image where I'm pointing at is where the sunset is, and so having the white of the canvas be able to reflect through the oil and come back to your eye, it makes it much more luminous. So I often don't tint for landscapes, but I have at times, and there's nothing wrong with doing so.
Once you've tinted something and you want to have a particular feature of it be super luminous, it's sometimes hard to bring it back all the way to where it's got that same reflectivity. And so there have definitely been projects where I've tinted most of the canvas, but then had the tinting kind of grade A up to white, where or near white, where the light source is going to be, and then it makes it less difficult. You don't have to fight that underpainting nearly as much.
Yeah, if you're working from reference and you know in advance where that's going to be, you can certainly plan for it. Doing a lot of plein air painting, like painting on location, it's you can't usually plan for that.
Right. Yeah. So just having that white canvas is your kind of your most versatile answer.
Yep. Well, you can see here I've pre-mixed all my major colors. So this is called a closed palette technique, and closed palette just means you mix everything and you do all your color matching in advance. So now I'm just going to paint and take from all these colors, and I've also kind of arranged them according to where they will fall in the painting. So like my sky blues, and then like my sunset colors in the middle, and then down here I got these like foreground colors mixed, and then I'll add in some pure colors that don't need to be pre-mixed as well. But any major areas of color in my reference that I spot, I just try to pre-mix those in piles, so it makes it easier.
Yeah, well, it's almost like if you're a digital painter, having a palette laid out ahead of time instead of having to just wing it and go to the color picker and start from scratch each time you're making a new color, but to instead have a palette laid out of 48 sample colors or whatever.
Yep, that's exactly correct analog, I guess, to this, or this is the analog to that. But another thing that's helpful with landscape painting is if you're going to have a horizon line in your piece, is to just pre-measure a true horizontal line on your canvas. So I don't know if this shows up on my video quality, but I pre-drew some pencil lines here so I know where true horizontal is, and so that'll avoid me accidentally getting a wobbly or a tilted horizon line, which would kind of destroy the whole illusion and make it look like a snapshot that was taken off balance.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I think is worth mentioning is that although it is nice to be able to see your reference, it ends up making your panel pretty small on the screen.
Yeah.
And I think since most of the people who are actively following along with you have the reference, I don't know how, it might be pixels better spent if you were to just zoom in a little bit. It is nice to see what you're doing on the palette, but I don't know. I mean, you could kind of take turns if there's times when you're doing a lot of stuff on the palette. I know it's kind of hard to move the camera around. We still have gloves on.
While you're getting that set up, I'd like to thank people that are watching from the Fireside Tattoo Network. We have That Tattoo Guy says, "Hey guys, Dan the Kraken 18. This is Powerful Gentleman series of artists." Dan the Kraken 18 says, "This is amazing. I wish I was at home and I can paint along, but you can always watch the replay and then paint along again." Mariano Lopez says, "Hello all." And then Atomic Inkjet is, I've got an answer. Atomic Inkjet, shoot an email to gabe@tattoonow.com. And the Reinventing app actually is a different login. It's not the same as the webpage. They will work together, but currently the app is a new login. Let's see. Billy Narian says, good morning from Scotland.
Oh, morning.
Phil Kelly says hello from Portland, Oregon. Mong Salzar says hello from the Philippines. Allison Darnell says love this exclamation point. Love this. Okay, maybe a couple more here, maybe not. Let's see here. Savannah Popoff-Griggs, what type of oil paint do you prefer? Hey, Susanna.
My usual two brands are either Gamblin or Natural Pigments.
Natural Pigment. So that's actually the name of the brand.
Yeah, I guess that's the name of the website, but their brand is Rublev.
Okay.
That's Rublev, and this is Gamblin.
Yeah, and I think that you've been probably thinking a lot more specifically about your paint choices than I have. I've just been for a long time working with whatever's lying around because I'm just making stuff, right? I'm not trying to make a realistic landscape most of the time. Although, I'm thinking that I'd like to start painting skies. I might have mentioned that when I talked to you earlier. I really would like to just every now and then paint the sky, especially, that half hour before sundown and really just try to learn to hammer it out loose as can be, but to try to get those colors, because I feel like even though I'm colorblind, I can have a meaningful, experience with it.
Yeah.
Recently we had Fawn Baker and Jordan Rukas were here, and a couple of months ago when we were looking at the sky, it was the sun had just dropped below the horizon, and there's this gradient. And I'm always doubting myself, and that's one of the things I hate about this, because I do live in a full color world. It's just I flunk all the color tests. And so I asked them, what do you guys think of that color gradient near the horizon? Do you actually see color there? It's sort of silvery, but I'm seeing hints of stuff. And so we kind of compared notes, and it seemed like we were on the same page. But yeah, it's sometimes it's so subtle that you're just seeing micro hints of these colors. And
Yeah.
that's a very, very tricky thing when you're trying to paint it and really capture it.
Yeah, it's the difference between light and pigment. Like light is color, is a different form of color than pigmented color. So.
Right. Yeah, you actually use different colors in RGB versus CMYK. But I guess that's one of the reasons why some artists like to work really translucent and let that white bounce light back through the layer of pigment, because then you actually are getting more light when you're looking at it.
Yeah, and glazing, that's where glazing comes in. So, like you need to do an indirect painting style where you let it one layer dry and then you do a translucent oily layer on top of that one. And that's when you can really start to get close to those atmospheric effects where you're seeing through particles of oxygen, in our air. That's what creates atmosphere. And so you're seeing through sort of particles of color and oil when you start to glaze. And that's the closest you can get to manufacturing the amazingness that, the natural world can do.
Yeah, I guess I'd be curious to know like exactly what you're doing first here now that you're actually painting.
Yeah, I'm just laying in basic shapes. So I started with my horizon line just to get that established. So, and now I'm just mapping in the distant landforms, and I'll work my way into the foreground, then I'll piece the sky in. So given that this reference doesn't have a lot of interaction between foreground and sky, I can work out of order, but often it's better to work from farthest away to closest just to keep things organized. But since I've already pre-mixed all my colors on palette, I can just, and in my reference, there's very little interaction between each like layer of or area of the painting. I can just kind of block in the different shapes as I see fit.
Right, your foreground background progression is pretty linear, where you don't have overlapping far foreground shapes coming in front of the far background.
Yeah, exactly. So I can kind of work out of order the way I'm doing it right now.
I've got a question in here. Susanna Popoff-Griggs asks, do you find you limit your palette the longer you paint, or do you use more and more color?
I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place. I mean, I feel like these colors I have laid out are a lot of colors for some artists. For many artists, that would be like way too complex of a palette. But for me, this is like a stripped down palette. So
yeah, some
you know,
some artists work with these so-called triads, where basically it's like the RGB idea, having three complementary colors that I mean the common ones would be red, yellow, and blue, the primaries, but it doesn't have to be that. It can often be like alizarin, ochre, and Payne's gray, and with that you can end up creating something that looks pretty realistic, but it's got a mood to it because it's based on this very particular palette that doesn't necessarily give you the full gamut. It gives you a very rich gamut, but it does not give you the full gamut, which is why you end up with a mood. Like a lot of filmmakers, they'll have a limited gamut in their entire film, where the palette is a really big part of the psychology of the movie.
yeah, there's something called a Zorn palette, Zorn, I believe, and that's like a classical European painting palette, and it's only like 3-4 colors, and there's been some incredible paintings done with only those 3 and 4 colors, and you would never know it was that simple.
Hasn't Gunnar talked a little bit about the Zorn palette?
Yeah, I think yeah.
So Susanna kind of was following that up a little bit. I watched you paint a long time ago in Paradise, and you seem to be very precise. I'm curious if you've found yourself simplifying over the years. Similar question.
Short answer, no. But I mean, as I stretch myself as a painter and attempt new things and kind of advance and progress myself, I find value in the situations where I can be more simple. But that occurs within a larger practice of painting where I do many complex things as well. So it's just situational. I don't think there's one true best way to paint.
I think just based on Nick's vocabulary, you can tell he's not somebody that seeks simplicity deliberately. And I'm kind of guilty of the same.
Preston Hines says, I appreciate this. Oils are intimidating. Maybe you have any tips for people that might be a little intimidated by oils?
Start simple and just learn the materials first, really. So don't even try to paint pictures at first if it's too intimidating to paint a picture. Like literally just smear paint around on a canvas, or just try to match a color. Just maybe take like an article of clothing and then put it next to your canvas, and then just try to match that color, or just the color of anything. Just like learn to mix paint.
There's actually a really great course that Matt Hurtado did, and Gabe can tell you where to access it. But it's just painting a cube, very straightforward, but trying to make a nice looking cube of it, and you know, it takes this very simple shape and gives you a chance to really develop it to the point where, you know, you have an opportunity to work the paint without having this kind of overwhelming set of objectives that, you know, you're just not ready for.
Yeah, the biggest mistake everyone makes, and like I mean everyone, is that you want to learn a new medium, or you know, so let's say oil painting. So you buy all your supplies, you buy this big expensive canvas, you spend all your money, and then you pick out like the most advanced, like artistic thing you've ever wanted to paint. That's got to be a masterpiece, and then you fail miserably. It's like, why would you jump to step 10 when there's like steps 1 through 9?
Yeah, but that's true, and also the size thing. It's very easy to think, oh, it's a painting, you know, so I don't have to think like a tattoo artist. Finally, you know, I'll get this 2 by 3 foot canvas here, and you are a tattoo artist, and so you have just taken on a back piece.
Yeah.
And what will happen is, because you're new to painting, your technique is going to keep getting better in the course of that one project. And you're going to look at stuff you did 3 days ago and be like, oh, crap, I have to go back over that again, because now I've already kind of gotten better than that and moved beyond it. And so then you're going through the whole painting over and over again. It gets discouraging. And so definitely start small and simple, and tune into instructional stuff when you can. The Nick Baxter, the Matt Hurtado thing is highly recommended. There's also a skull painting with Sean Barber. That shouldn't be your first painting that you ever try, but once you've done a few of them, you've done the Matt Hurtado thing, you're starting to get a sense of control over it. That would be a good, you know, 10th painting.
We also have the Christina Ramos with the donut.
Oh, the
painting.
donut. Yeah, the donut, you know, again, that's up there in the 10th painting kind of range. But yeah, that one was a lot of fun.
And the other one that we did over the summer was the Eye with Joe Harrison.
Oh,
that's
yes,
going to be the next one.
Yeah, that's also a great exercise that you can do over and over again, just to get a photograph of your eye or somebody else's eye up close. And the thing about when you paint something like an eye, or, you know, any human, like a hand, anything like that, you can tell if you've done it right or not. You know, anybody can, without even having to have any expertise. And you know, you're not going to be ready for that kind of challenge right away. You know, you might end up feeling like you're just making mud. And in fact, that's you know, obviously the big challenge. So Nick, I guess that would be my next question for you, is what are some strategies that you use to avoid making mud while you're painting?
My main one is I have application brushes, and then I have blending brushes. And so you keep your brushes separated and clean. So that's number one. Don't just pick one brush and try to do everything with it. Like, put the paint on with one brush and then put that brush down and then move it around with another brush.
Yeah. Also, something that I find helps is to have a paper towel that's taped down a relatively big area of it, if it's a bigger painting, that you can just easily clean without having to use both hands. You'll keep your brush cleaner if it's easier to clean it.
Yeah, like right here, I cut up old T-shirts into rags, and so you know, just always have old T-shirts and rags laying around. I can always just clean my brush off real easy. Gets most of the paint off. There's still some residual on the bristles, but you know, that's all you really need to do in most cases, unless you're doing something very, very luminous and, you know, primary color.
Yeah, you know, I think probably the best way to avoid mud in any medium is to just have an idea of what you're doing ahead of time, have a good plan. If you know where your darks and lights are going to be, then there shouldn't have to be too much of a wrestling match between the two, where you're trying to put highlights over dark areas, and that kind of thing. As a tattooer, you already are familiar with, highlights that you're having to leave negative from the start, right? Because you can't just put white over black.
Right.
If you kind of approach painting in a similar way, you're going to have a little bit cleaner process. It's not going to get muddy as easily.
Let's see. Cody Heaven Ridge says, "Hi from Lakeland, Florida. I used to work with Litos. You guys are great." And then let's see. Susanna asks, "Speaking of, does Nick enjoy keeping painting and tattooing separate? Guy integrates both. I know some artists like keeping them separate."
I don't understand the question.
I guess in terms of like, your painting subject matter being very different, by and
Yeah.
large from your tattoo subject matter.
Yeah.
Although,
Okay.
of course, you do paint.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, you tattoo landscapes sometimes and that kind of thing.
Yep.
But they're different looking from your paintings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like two different parts of my brain, really. So I kind of enjoy being able to do different things with each, although it is fun sometimes to bring it together. But yeah, it's two different disciplines for me. It's two different parts of my brain and two different things that I find fun. It's like, like dessert tastes good and dinner tastes good, but you wouldn't like mash it all into one thing. So that's how it kind of is for me. Although people like Guy or others just, it's all just dessert.
Yeah, well, yes and no. The big difference for me between tattooing and painting is the context. Tattooing is where I am gladly accepting input from others, and in fact, I prefer it usually. And painting is where I'm not and don't want to and have no interest in that. It's my personal artistic place, and so apart from that, subject matter wise, in both tattooing and painting, I'm just doing the stuff that I like, right? And
Yeah.
so it all ends up kind of being similar stuff, but at the same time, maybe I'm just kind of falling prey to my defaults, and so there's a part of me that really wants to make an effort to reach outside of the comfort zone and learn these other things, like painting Christina's donut and that kind of thing. I think it's really important that regardless of what you want to specialize in, you do these classic things to see how it'll turn out in your hand, what you can learn from it.
Yeah, I like what you said about just doing what you like, and my problem is I like too many things.
Yeah.
I'm just interested in a lot of things, and I have a very active brain, I guess. And so I'm just like, ooh, what if I did this? Oh, like what if I tattooed this way? Oh, what if I painted this subject matter? Like, I paint like, kind of grotesque, kind of weird, surrealist stuff, and then I'll just paint like classical landscapes. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just I'm into everything.
Right. Yep.
Like the kid in the candy store.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're also like me in that you have whole catalogs of ideas that you'll probably never even get to because, it's hard to narrow it down. You have to narrow it down. And some things just end up, realistically not being in the queue.
Yeah. Lately, I've been trying to like mash them all together in my painting at least, and do like kind of surrealist stuff that incorporates landscape, incorporates still life, incorporates grotesque, like all of it. Just try to put it all into one incomprehensible, I don't know, eye feast.
Yeah, well, okay. So one example would be, and this is included in the encyclopedia, it was one of those surgical things, but they were cutting the landscape open.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was an example of mashing a few of those things together because the landscape was pretty realistic.
Yeah, exactly. And I've done crazier stuff in that lately as well. So yeah, that's basically it. Just two all over the place, but actually trying to harness it all into one thing.
I put up guys painting there for a little bit while you were talking, and Preston Hines says, "That looks sick, guy."
Oh, thanks.
Maybe if people that are painting while they watch, let us know in the chat room if you're painting, and at some point we'll be fun to know who's doing this.
So yeah, Kaya has finished her painting. As long as you're showing mine, let me just put hers on the screen. And this has got some really nice thick impasto on it. Boom.
Nice. That's awesome.
A little touch of pink in the sky, and yeah, some nice gradients in there. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, we're trying to encourage her to just hammer through the canvas panels, you know, not be precious about it. And so she's routinely doing, you know, sometimes a painting a day or more.
It's amazing watching her keep up.
Yeah, she'll be an incredible artist at you know, a much earlier age.
It's a big part of our homeschool is staying creative. My number one piece of advice to anyone out there who's, you know, either homeschooling or distance learning right now, or even, you know, not, but your kids are, you're wanting to encourage them to be creative. Just make sure they've got a really nice creative setup in their space. And every now and then, without saying anything about it, just go over there and clean it up, add a couple of new things, drop a new sketchbook in there, some new art supplies, organize it, make it look inviting, and just quietly walk away. And, you know, maybe do that once a month. And, yeah, the magic will just happen. All right, so let's go back to Nick. I'd like to see how he's blending his colors now. Now he's starting to get some paint on the canvas there. Yeah, so looks like you're going all your darks first. And what have we got there? You've made kind of like some neutral earthy colors with what, a dark blue and an umber or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of grays in this foreground. That, you know, there's a lot of gray, so you can make that with blue and brown and white. So I'm just trying to get this basically like roughed in, and then you can refine to your heart's content. But if you get it roughed in accurately, then it'll look like it's supposed to look, and then however much you want to develop it from there into like fine detail realism is up to you. So I'm just getting everything established and correct, basically, according to the reference.
Brandon Stone on the Fireside Tattoo Network YouTube asks, do you guys like to use liquid or galkid, or do you stick to linseed oil?
Well, we did talk about that a little bit earlier. Nick is using linseed, and I am using liquid. Yeah, if you want to go back to the replay, we definitely talked in some detail about the reasons for our preferences. But it's down to drying time.
Cool. And then we're on the Fireside Tattoo Network, Nick has a webinar up there, and Jake said that there's a 15% off holiday coupon code. So if you're interested in Nick's still life painting course, it's code special treat at firesidetattoo.com. And Jake was in the chat room earlier Don't know if he's still there, but hello, he is doing his drawing group. The hashtag reinventing drawing group is tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Okay, I'm in the background again.
All right. Thanks, Jake. And yeah, looking forward to your drawing group tomorrow. And of course, it's 8 o'clock here, and I'm going to be up till 3 tonight. So who knows? But I'm going to try to drop in. So with the pre-oiled panel like that, and you know, it being a panel as opposed to a canvas, so you don't have all those tiny little nooks that the grain of the canvas normally provides. Do you ever find that the brush kind of scrapes off paint as well as puts it on? You end up with these little white lines being created by the bristles.
Yeah, that does happen, but if you know the right, viscosities to mix your paint, and you're using the right kind of soft bristle brushes, you can definitely like avoid it. Plus the right hand motions, I guess, too. So, like you can see what I'm doing here is like everything's very like, I don't know. I'm not like stabbing down on the painting. I'm like laying it on the sides of the bristles. So I'm really just like depositing as much paint down as possible.
So you're gliding sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it starts to kind of smear off and get too thin, then I just reload my brush and put it on even thicker. So. But some of those scratchy lines where the panel shows through is great for like foreground grasses, and like little textural elements in a landscape painting.
Just get out your stiffer bristle brush for those, and
yeah, or just be less careful. Yeah, just bear down harder with your hand and kind of jam the paint in there a little more. But all the painting I've done so far is very, very light. I'm barely putting any pressure onto the canvas at all. I'm just barely gliding these bristles on there, so the paint gets deposited but not scraped off.
Is that, I can't tell from this distance, is that more of a square or is it a filbert?
This is a flat. So
okay, yep.
Yeah, so not a filbert. It's just flat. It's just chopped off.
Yep.
I've got a couple questions in here from the Hyperspace Studios Facebook. Roberto Palacios says, "Greetings, Nick." And then Susanna is asking, "Who are your favorite painters, Nick?"
Let's see. I got these books right next to me here. You can't see them; they're off screen. But favorite painters, of course, Dali, all the classics, Michelangelo, anyone from the Renaissance or Baroque, Caravaggio. More modern would be Andrew Wyeth, Marilyn Minter, Dali I already mentioned. Pretty much anyone in the realism genre, I guess. As far as landscapes, since that's what we're doing now, the Hudson River School would be my all-time favorite landscape painters.
Yeah, Wyeth is. I've always really enjoyed his paintings. They're realistic, but not. It's, again, we were talking about that before. That place where you can tell that it's a painting, but the sense of presence and realism is there. And in his case, a very kind of emotional sort of. I'm not even sure how he does it. There's a kind of nostalgia attached to these images.
Yeah, and I'm always shocked at how geometrically simple they are. Like he'll have just, it almost looks like an abstract. There's just like these geometric shapes. If you look at his compositions, it'll just be like the point of a house, you know, will form like a triangle that's almost a silhouette, but not quite. And then like, you know, the land, like a hillside, would just be like this curving, arcing kind of shape that if you squint your eyes, it looks like an abstract, but when you open your eyes, it's very realistic.
Right. And I'm always amazed at how a very realistic painting like that can have so many shapes that are just simple silhouettes. It's very little detail at all in them. But, you know, of course, there's a lot of real life that we see that way. We just don't think of it that way. In our mind, we know there's actually detail.
Yeah.
I copied down a lot of those names. We're adding to the art history folder and reinventing once or twice a week now. And I can't wait. We want to find somebody to do, you know, maybe an hour show a month on dissecting some of the awesome painters and masters that are out there.
You know, I didn't get to go to art school, but I was fortunate that even though my parents are not artists, they really put it in front of the three of us kids. And they subscribed to this series that was being sold by our local grocery store, The Great Artists. And, you know, it was the familiar names. But each of these volumes was pretty thin, like a magazine, big pages, really nice big pages, large color plates, and it would show each painting across from a paragraph or two about what was going on in that artist's life and in the culture around them at the time that painting was done. And often you'd hear about how this artist was flat and broke or whatever, and how this particular piece, which became so pivotal in our culture, so extremely well known, was just absolutely vilified at the time, and people just were shocked at how it didn't follow the rules and just wanted to burn it. And so, you know, as like a 12-year-old reading this stuff, I found that so fascinating. And the struggles that we go through now are, you know, obviously it's hard to be an artist. But gosh, as tattoo artists, having a steady paycheck, you have no idea how fortunate you are.
Yep, that is the truth. We have it better than we want to believe we have it. That's for sure.
Yeah, of course, I did a little bit of that starving artist thing before getting my apprenticeship, so I definitely got to get that taste. I think many of us did.
Yeah, when I got my apprenticeship, I was washing dishes at an old folks' home and cleaning houses as like, you know, like a cleaning person.
Yeah. Oh.
And just saving all my money to be able to do tattooing. And so I would go like dumpster diving for food, and, you know, like you can get a lot of like almost stale bagels out of like, you know, the local bagel shop dumpster that were like still like wrapped in the packaging, but thrown away.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I never quite did that, but I was sleeping on the floor of a print shop at the time I got my apprenticeship. This print shop owner was letting me stay there, and at night I could use the copy machine and other stuff in exchange for me helping him fix the place up and do basic graphic art for some of his customers. And I managed to squeeze out an album cover. And this is, you know, I used to get paid so badly, but for this one, I got $750 whole. And I thought,
awesome.
maybe I could get an apartment now. Nah. And I went and got tattooed. And yeah, that's when I got my apprenticeship. So it was clearly the right decision, right? Always, that's the right decision. Go get tattooed. That's the answer. But yeah, the first time I remember doing a walk-in, and I did this piece. You know, I'm all nervous and jittery. I did kind of a shaky job on some of it, but you know, it was my first walk-in, and the guy leaves, and the boss closes the shop, and takes me into the back and hands me a spliff and $72.50. I'm like, or whatever, $37.50. I'm like, what's this? He's like, this is your pay for doing the tattoo. And I was like, oh, right, that part. Because, you know, up until then, I was just living and breathing it. And yeah, it was, and it was just such a shock to remember, oh yeah, right, I am going to make a living doing this. Okay, so I need to forewarn you that I am going to have to step away, and every Sunday night I have this happen. I do want to read to my daughter every night and put her to bed. So this might be the time that we could let a few people in on the Zoom link, some of our regular members. Nick, would you be down with that?
Yeah, whatever. I'm not the most talkative person, I guess. So,
well, you know what? Our group are very quiet too. You know what I mean? Everyone's going to want to hear what you have to say, but it's yeah, usually about halfway into something like this, it's nice to start getting some other voices in the mix. And when I get back to this, I would love to see what you're doing up a little closer. Or I don't know if maybe you could just show us real quick if there's some way. Here's a question: is that like really fixed down to your easel, or can you easily take it off? And just...
No, I can easily take this panel off. The problem is it's 5 by 7 inches, so like you got to be like right on top of the camera like this to really see.
Right? Yeah. If you could just do that for a second, so we could just see it and get a sense of your progress, because we can kind of see what you're doing, but not in detail. Yeah. Okay. So you're really smoothing out the water surface, and you can see how it's got that creamy sky color in there, but it's not as bright as it's going to be in the sky.
Yeah, the water is always going to obviously reflect the sky, but not as brightly. So that's kind of like a rule, a general safe rule.
Yeah.
With landscapes. There's always exceptions because there's so many amazing, unique things that atmospheric light does. But as a general safe rule, just use the same colors, in the water that were in the sky, and just like dull them out a little bit, and you'll probably be good.
Yeah, and of course, there's going to be a slightly different texture to it as well. And you know, in the case of the landscape you're doing, it's a fairly serene scene, so it's not, especially off in the distance, there's not a lot of like visible chop or anything like that.
Yeah, this water is actually kind of challenging. I'm having to just make a lot of simplifications right now, and I'll come back to it later, but I'm just trying to match accurate color at the moment. Best I can anyways.
Do you ever find that you have to lift some of the paint back off the canvas if you haven't gotten close enough with the color, or do you just keep adding paint until you get where you need it?
Usually I paint thin enough with my technique that I can just keep adding, but yeah, subtracting is definitely a good technique if you need to use it.
So do we have anyone joining us yet, or has the Zoom link gone out yet, Gabe?
I have put the Zoom link into the chat room, so we'll see if the regulars there.
And of course, you don't have to be regular either. Anyone who is painting with us tonight, please join us, especially if it's your first time. And If you're not an experienced painter, don't be shy. You got nothing to be embarrassed about. You're among people who are coming here for education, a lot of us, and the fact that you're here painting is the only thing that's important. I think that's something that really slows people down, especially in tattooing, because we want to look impressive all the time to our peers. And so, you know, it's almost like a risk to do something that you're not already pretty good at in any kind of public way at all. But we encourage that here.
Okay, so Melissa and Sandy are in. Leo's beaming in.
All right.
Matt Jackson's beaming in.
We got a pretty good. We got the echo. Somebody's got to turn their sound off on whatever window.
And headphones. Headphones are also preferable. But if you can't, we'll just deal with it.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to step away and read to this kid for a few minutes, and I'll be rejoining you guys shortly.
Cool. Casey Ball's going to join after his loud-ass roommate leaves. So, Leo, you want to introduce yourself? We'll go around the room a little bit, or the
Hey, how's it
virtual
going?
room.
Leo Gonzalez here. Thanks, Nick, for hosting this. It's really cool.
Thanks for being here, man.
For sure.
Leo, you want to let people know how they could find you? Or find your art?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I go under Cthuleo, CTHULEO. My website is leogonzales.com, LEOGONVALES.com.
I would do
Then Matt Jackson's here. Could you turn your camera horizontal, maybe, Matt, by chance? And it looks like you have an art night going there. You got.
Is that better?
Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, me and Miles Haysmith and I are both part of the group and just hanging out painting, trying to
Awesome.
follow.
Hey, Miles, I talked to you on the app, I think.
Yeah, earlier today.
Awesome. You want to? Did you give us your contact info? You want to people know how to find you?
Yeah, so mine's Matt Jackson Tattoos, and then we're in Columbus, Indiana.
Cool.
And mine's It's Me Bone Z on Instagram.
Cool. And then Melissa, you want to? I don't know what your audio is like in the background, but
I don't think my audio is too bad right now. Hi everyone, I'm Melissa. You can find me at on Instagram, MAC_MISSA. I'm out of Oregon. This is awesome. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm doing an Oregon scenery. So I'm a little bit different on the color palette, but I'm having fun.
awesome. Then Sandy, you're up.
Hello, it's Sandy, and I've got my partner here who's joining me, making his first painting ever. Making a beach.
Shout out.
And
Awesome.
I'm starting mine, and you can find me at on Instagram at Sandy McCandy, and or on the app under the same name.
Cool. I'm going to spotlight Nick again. And, wow. Zoom through the chat room, see if anybody's got any More comments or questions? You want to tell us a holiday story, Nick?
Holiday story?
Oh, shit.
I don't know. I'm not a holiday person. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. Bah humbug.
I like the contrast. I am also, I would like to consider myself a general, but I'm probably way less on the war on Christmas. If I had more time, I could try to be a general on the war on Christmas, but I also lose in my house. Got it's very festive here.
I try to get out of as much holiday stuff as I possibly can. Basically, I'm a lot of fun to be around, so.
Do you have any favorite places where you've done? I mean, it's kind of a silly question. How about what are some of the fun places that you've done landscape paintings at? Tell us about your travels.
I think my number one right now is Machu Picchu in Peru. I had a chance to stand on Machu Picchu and paint the mountain range there.
Oh, wow.
Got tore the hell up by these biting sandflies too. That was crazy. But that was an epic experience all around.
It sounds pretty amazing. Actually, it reminds me of a question that came in earlier about tips on plein air painting. So I imagine that you had to hike to Machu Picchu, right? Everyone hikes there.
We took transportation.
Okay.
You don't have to hike in. There is a very popular like 5-day hike or 10-day hike or something that you can do, but we didn't do any of that. We just took the bus up to the mountain, drops you off. I convinced them to let me bring my painting stuff in because they're really strict on, they don't want people like vandalizing or whatever. But yeah, I just found a quiet little spot, kind of on the edge of the mountain there, and just kind of painted all day. It's pretty amazing. My next bucket list is to go to the pyramids in Giza, paint plein air of like the Great Pyramids or something, or maybe the Sphinx or something. I think that'd be amazing.
A couple months ago, Damon Conklin did a trip over to Turkey, I believe. And,
oh, really?
Right in between lockdowns, and some of the pictures that he sent back of those ancient ruins were just out of control.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't mind going there. That's super cool. He did that, man.
Oh.
Not for the faint of heart.
No, he's amazing. Jake from the Fireside Tattoo Network, how about those Memphis chiggers, Nick?
Oh yeah, yep, Jake. Yeah. So I was painting down in Memphis with Jake and a bunch of people, and apparently just stood right in the middle of like the biggest chigger colony in the history of chiggers, because my entire lower half of my body was torn up for a month. Just red, itchy welts from waist down.
Elliot Coogie says, good morning from Louisiana. Although it's not morning in Louisiana. It's the same time as it is here. Yeah, maybe it's a very late night. And go to a split view here for a little bit so everyone can see what's going on.
We need Tattoo Grandpa back to tell his stories.
Haha. It is pretty amazing. I get to hear them all and all of their variants, and I'm yet to tire of them. It's pretty fun. It's like a fractal of ideas and stories. Has anybody taken any of Nick's seminars that's on the call here?
I intend to, though.
They're out of control. The holistic tattooing and the holistic painting classes are out of control. I love them. Oh shit! I was just gonna be like, usually my one of my go-to questions is like, so Nick, what was your first experiences with Guy? Maybe now's a good time to talk about it while he's not here.
My first experience with Guy. I got tattooed by Guy and Paul Booth at the same time at the very first ever Massachusetts convention. That was not fun.
I remember watching that. I didn't know who you were at the time. I had no idea who you were at the time. You were the dreaded kid that was getting his the collab. It was amazing, but
I hadn't met you at Darkside before then. Come on, come on. That was after Darkside, wasn't it?
it was during Darkside. Were you working at Darkside?
Maybe that was just
then?
before.
I remember I remember one of the. I remember getting yelled at by Joe Cap at one of those. Me and Sean. It was either the first one or the second one, but. That was crazy. It took forever to finish, eh? But you did finish it. You finally got out to guys, and
It was never finished. I'm like the worst tattoo client.
did you ever do you've done a collab with Guy, right?
Yeah, we tattooed Carson Hill. We did a sleeve on Carson Hill.
That's fun. I love the fact that he's been thinking on those new machines, and seems like he's getting some traction again.
Yeah, they're really nice. I've been using it. It's good.
Yeah, sweet. So let's see. So T. Von Krieger is asking, what is it that made you move towards a medical base in your paintings?
Say that again?
What is it that made you move towards a medical base in your paintings?
Medical base.
Maybe the themes. There's a lot of medical themes. He'll let us know.
I don't really know, man. It's just things I'm fascinated by, I guess. Strange compulsion and fascination.
How much do you think your I'm trying to figure out, trying to figure out the appropriate way to describe it, but like the fact that you have opinions, right? Or you've always had something to say. Like even from the very beginning, it seemed, you had a story or a theme or, everything, you're always telling stories inside of your art, it seems, although maybe landscapes, I don't know if they're different or if it's just a different type of story, but I don't know. I guess so the question would be, like, right from the get-go, it seemed like you always had powerful, strong, opinionated themes to your work, and how much do you attribute your success to that, or do you think it hindered you at all? Or
I mean, honestly, it probably hindered me, and I mean, it's not really good from a marketing perspective. I think, I don't know, probably just want to paint like stuff that people want to look at, right? And like don't need to think about, because that's our culture. But it's kind of why I also like landscape painting, because it's free of opinions. It's just beauty, and that anyone can relate to. But yeah, I mean, the side of my art that's expressing an opinion on society or culture or the human condition. I mean, none of that is designed to be popular or something people want to look at or want to hear, but it's like something that I need to express. I guess it's my truth.
yeah, so I guess it's funny because I was thinking of your tattoos. I was just remembering you, coming into Dark Side in those wicked early days. So I was, it seems like it's one of those things that maybe helped with your tattoo career, but limits the, accessibility of your paintings, or.
Yeah, I would say that's probably pretty accurate. I mean, yeah, it's not for like mass pop culture consumption, but in the tattoo world, I mean, that's what's one of the many beautiful things about tattooing is it's a very accepting community of misfits and rebels, and who appreciate people who have something to say or who have a unique take on something, and they don't mind seeing things that are intense or unpleasant or against the status quo, I guess. So I feel like that's probably why I fit right in as a tattooer after I started tattooing. It's a very, very awesome, accepting community I'm very thankful for. But then, yeah, as far as marketing some intense, weird political statement or cultural statement art towards the masses, I mean, that's just an uphill climb, that's for sure,
Were there some of those artists from back in the Dark Side days you still catch up with at all, or?
Yeah, I was just talking to Nick Trammell not too recently.
Nice.
I mean, I follow people on social media, but I haven't been back to Connecticut in years. I really kind of have no use for it, unfortunately. I still have some family in Connecticut and obviously some friends. So friends and family aside, I really just don't miss Connecticut at all. So I don't get up there much.
Good evening.
Susanna.
Hey. I thought I'd hop on for a second and say hello.
Awesome. Nice catching up.
Yeah, I was going to say the question I had earlier was just like a lot of tattoo artists that I talk to are always like, I would rather not paint anything I tattoo so that it's kind of like my own thing versus work. Like I do a lot of flowers and I also paint flowers, but some people just really like to keep it completely separate so it doesn't feel like the same job all day.
Yeah, I've had some of that. Like it can get very tedious and repetitive to tattoo the way that I paint, because I paint in a very tedious style, I guess.
Well, I noticed that you're not wearing gloves today, which I haven't seen you paint in a few years now. But last time I saw you painting, you're wearing like latex gloves.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't worn gloves in so many years. So maybe that was a long time ago that you saw me paint.
It was a really long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I used to be more paranoid about solvents, and but really I have gotten very good at controlling what I do, and I really don't come in direct contact with any solvents. So
like I said, you seem to be just super precise about everything. And like, do you like to needle the tiny details? Is that like your favorite thing to do?
yeah, I think there's something soothing in that for me. Yeah, it's very like meditative, and yeah, it's a very, I guess, soothing headspace. But my struggle is to not do so much noodling when it's not called for.
I think it's really hard to loosen up for a lot of artists because you
Yeah,
have to
and I
like.
think, you know, I think there's artists who who could stand to tighten up too.
Oh,
Just
for sure.
depends which extreme you're on.
I was painting at Hell City and Guy Aitchison called my work, I can't remember, but it was like, I don't know, intensely detailed or something like that. And I was like, well, good, but I don't know how to make anything loose because my brain always wants to make everything tight and overly detailed.
Yeah.
And if I don't, it just feels like it's not enough work.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep, that's a relatable statement for sure.
I definitely feel you, Susanna.
Yeah, like
have
I
a
want
really hard
bleeding
time
fingers.
doing
I struggle with that every day.
that.
Do the exercise with the isolating the detail is something I'm focusing on now, so I'm not doing that. It's so hard.
I'm finding tonight I'm using paintbrushes that are all like splayed. None of them are actually nice and tight right now, so it's kind of forcing me into just being a little looser.
Oh yeah, somebody had told me just like use giant paintbrushes. Like take whatever paintbrush you prefer to use almost all the time and just use one that's like 4 times bigger.
Yeah, that's very good advice. I totally back that. I mean, right now I'm using the biggest brush that I feel comfortable using for this painting. This is the only brush I've used so far. So that'll keep you focusing on your large shapes and values better, so you don't get sucked into the details too soon.
Who all is in
Susanna,
the call? I can't see.
you swipe to the left or to the right. You control what you see. Susanna, have you ever
Okay.
checked out the Illustrator's Masters class?
No, I haven't. I probably should. I just started getting back to painting like recently because it's been difficult.
Yeah, it's I think you dig it. It's a lot of serious illustrators. I know the Leo's got some experience with it inside of this
I
group here.
haven't done the IMC yet.
No? Oh shit! You've learned from a
tend-
lot of those teachers, though.
I tend to LuxCon and have learned a lot from those guys through that show. And then I'm doing a mentorship with Donato Giancola via the Smart School this March. But I've been wanting to do the IMC. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised because, well, like I said, I see you talking about a lot of the same teachers. Nick, you've never gotten there either yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
It's fun. We did a drunk critique with with Dan Dos Santos and a bunch of the IMC. It was amazing. The different kind of different vibe. I mean, they're about story and priority, and why are they in that position and not another position, or they don't really seem that scared. It was pretty amazing to go through it. It's anyways. Illustrator's Masters class is awesome. Or Smarter School, that's the online version.
Yeah.
How do I access that? Is it through
I think it's just smartschool.com or imc.com. I believe.
make a note? I'm like an old lady with all this stuff. Smart School.
Nick, you've traveled to take some master classes. You want to maybe chat about some of those experiences?
Sure, I've taken some amazing courses and workshops at Grand Central Atelier in Queens, New York City. They're a classical atelier, so they teach a very specific discipline of drawing and painting that stems from the European masters. So it's representational realism. You know, nothing abstract or conceptual or modern art. It's the stuff you see in like museums, basically. And I've taken some landscapes, some still life, and I've had some great mentorship here and there from other artists along the way. Did a few semesters of art college at Pear College of Art in Connecticut. Went straight out of high school, but dropped out of art college when I got my tattoo apprenticeship. So I don't have a degree or a BFA or anything. I never finished art college, but that's where I first learned to oil paint. In the few semesters of art college I learned how to oil paint. Learn the basics anyway of what I'm doing now, and I've just pursued it ever since on my own.
All right, guys, I'm gonna hop off. I have to put my kiddo to bed. I just wanted to hop on and say hello.
Thanks for
Awesome.
hopping
Thanks
on.
for popping in.
You guys have fun. It looks really good.
The next Sunday 9 o'clock, it's a bio event, and then pretty much every Sunday we're doing some art jam. So feel free to join anytime.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Well, thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Had a couple people talking about doing an art retreat on the one of the social medias. It's really tough not being able to really plan any events or travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Paradise Art Retreats are some of my favorite memories. So I miss those, and definitely appreciate you being the catalyst for making those happen.
Well, that was actually, I think Michelle was the catalyst. I was
Okay.
the unwilling co-producer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but after the second tattoo gathering, I suppose I took it a little too seriously, and definitely was not in a position to like keep doing tattoo conventions. And then, but Michelle was very much enjoying the Jiminy Peak and the vibe, and was like, what, and I think it was coming off of Interstate, and she was like, well, what if we come back here and just, paint? And it was hard to argue with that. It was definitely hard to argue when, Michelle and Guy are like, we'd like to come back here if you do another event. But on the other hand, it was definitely very much like, I definitely don't want to, stress my family or myself to the point where we're breaking. Yeah, so then they put the energy in to make sure that it happened. And I definitely, taken on the producer role since then, but I was like I said, I wouldn't consider myself the catalyst of that event. I was along for the ride.
Super stoked that you guys brought that to Albuquerque.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, about a month before the art retreat, I came to my senses, and I was like, holy shit, this is going to be, pretty unbelievable. And, the energy and the vibe is, it's very similar to the Paradise Tattoo Gathering, except for like, no one's, torturing other human beings, and the
Well.
stress level's a little, hey, you want to go have a tasty beverage? Oh yeah, sure. But and then it's a lot less. Well, I mean, the focus is on the art as opposed to the clients.
Yeah.
And obviously with a tattoo convention, it should be on the clients because that's who's getting tattooed. And but yeah, the art retreats. Again, because you're coming out and everyone comes out, makes that energy. It's a lot easier to kind of put together than it is to create all this shit. Very excited to do another one someday, though, and get everybody back together.
Yeah.
And New Mexico is out of control. Yes.
It's funny because I was born here, and it's sometimes you really don't see the magic till other people point it out, and you kind of, oh yeah, I guess so, huh?
Yes, that is a very true statement. Yeah, I've had that happen so many times for me, where you just get used to things and you start taking them a little bit for granted, or it just becomes mundane.
Last year I was in Scotland with my wife, and at this pub, some guy came up to me and started asking, "Oh, where are you from?" And I told him New Mexico, and he was like, "Oh man," and I said, "Yeah, but what you guys got out here is just pure magic. It's and he said, "Well, I beg to differ. I'll trade you because I've been to New Mexico, and that place is pure magic." And I'm like, "Oh." And after a while, I thought about it, and it's like, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm just so used to it that it's exciting when you find magic somewhere else. It's nice to reaffirm it and reestablish the magic of where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, the human brain's designed to repetition, and the brain is designed to be considered safe, and you're almost designed to overlook it. And it's one of the things I found, just doing this, working with people. It's like it is fucking magic, like every single day. And even though it kind of becomes, I mean, the same thing with tattooing, right? It's like it's magic every day, but it is a job that you do every day. But you can tell who all of a sudden doesn't find it magic every day. And
yeah.
So we have T-Von has joined us.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
What's up?
Hey.
Thanks, Yvonne.
I'm just kind of getting started.
No problems. Jessica Keel says, hello, thanks for the live. That's on the Hyperspace Studios Facebook that we're streaming out on. Oh, okay, looks like got some questions here. Atomic Injections 47. Nick, when you're hitting those undercloud highlights, what's the best way to keep your hard edge from blending?
Well, clouds are tough because they do have some hard edges, but they have a lot of soft edges as well. So What you've seen me do so far, if that person's been watching, I just laid all the paint on there in, chunks of color. Now I'm taking a fan brush, like a blending brush, and I'm softening it all out and making it all soft. And then I'll go back again if I need to find any edges again. I'll just go back again with another flat brush or like a round brush, and reassert those edges. So it's a multi-step process, and you can kind of push and pull it back and forth, make it softer, then make it sharper again.
And other question is everyone using oils, or maybe?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yep, I'm using oils.
You were lasering. Weren't you getting some lasering done at one point, Nick? On your arm?
Yep, sure was.
What, once?
About 10 years ago. Haven't gotten any since.
Oh shit.
Why, can you see my horrible tattoos on screen?
Yeah. I mean, classic tattoos.
Okay, classic's a better word, but yeah, they're horrible. No offense to the artist that did him. He's a very, very nice man and actually a good tattooer, but I've outgrown these tattoos, and they were 18-year-old decisions. But I've basically given up on myself, so I don't know if I'll ever finish the job.
Well, that's silly. Maybe not.
Much more fun to give tattoos, I guess.
I am sure of that.
Kind of difficult to describe the mentality of just like the tattoo becomes a part of you, and you just like look in the mirror and don't even see it anymore, and just like my brain's full of other things and more pressing matters. Just like I don't even remember I have all these horrible tattoos until someone points them out, and I'm like, oh yeah, thanks.
Sorry.
I think when I was like a teenager and younger 20s, I was just on a mission to not fit into this like bullshit society. So just get covered, and now I just look past my own appearance. I don't really care about it all that much. But now I'm stuck with all these old decisions.
Even Quells says, "What's good, players?"
I don't even know how to respond to that, but thanks.
A good chuckle. Seth Blood is asking if it's too late to join the Zoom. No. Let's see if this works. hate using this Facebook because I'm always so inadequate at it. But looks awesome, Leo, and I hope you enjoyed Scotland, says Billy from Scotland, who's actually still on here. Thanks for
Oh, awesome.
sticking
I'll trade you. Just for a minute.
Scotland is pretty badass. Nick, have you ever been to Scotland? Wait. Oh, no.
Scotland, no, I haven't.
We were in Ireland.
Yeah, I've been through Ireland, England, Wales. I have not made it to Scotland, unfortunately.
Well, you got to get up to Edinburgh. I think Tom Strom's up there with Jackie.
Yeah.
It's sick.
Oh, my name is Scottish.
It's like a haunted city, man.
Yeah. It's, I guess Hitler was going to retire there, so there was a couple, very few places that he didn't, bomb the hell out of. And Edinburgh was one, and you could tell, like, when I go through Europe, all I notice is how old everything is. But then when you're in Edinburgh, it's like, holy shit, like, everything's old. Like, it's noticeable how much, when you go back to the rest of it, how much, is new. When you go to, like, the old sections. Just, anyways, Edinburgh is fucking out of control.
And also tour underneath Edinburgh, the old streets that they built up on top of.
Yeah, the closes, is that what they're called?
Yeah, like Mary Queen's Close and all that.
Yeah.
Mary Queen's Close. Ireland too, though, was absolutely insane. I could stay there forever.
Yeah, we had a pretty good time. Nick, you did a seminar, was it in Dublin?
Yes.
Can other artists join you as well? Yes. Okay, so Oliver Loinian says, can other artists join? Yes. The best thing to do is to go to the Reinventing the Tattoo mobile app. And in the events, you'll find the links and such. It's getting kind of late to join now, but yeah, if you can figure out where, get the link and let's do it. Dennis Wheeler says, Nick Baxter, my favorite artist for many years. I think that's Dennis. Yeah, hey Dennis, how goes it? I remember Dennis came over to do a guest spot years ago. It was fun. He's a great guy. Great artist.
Guys, I enjoyed painting with you. I'm gonna cut out.
Awesome.
All right,
Thanks
man.
again.
Take care.
Take it easy. And...
Nick, do you get nervous when you teach seminars?
I do get nervous, yeah.
Do you think it's worth overcoming the horrendous fear? Or
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the most rewarding things I've done in my life, for sure. Is teaching and helping others, of course. It feels good to do that. If you have a genuine love for the thing you're teaching as well. So absolutely worth overcoming fear of public speaking and fear of, I don't know, being on display, I guess. But yeah, it's awesome.
do you have any stories or any times you could talk about getting through it for people? Or
Oh man, I mean, meditation's great if you have a meditation practice, some sort of mindfulness breathing practice, and any kind of Eastern tradition meditation is amazing. But just for centering yourself, calming your thoughts, getting your mind focused. But I mean, besides that, it's just a lot of lost sleep the night before, a lot of panicked bathroom trips. So, you know, it's a lot of fun. Hey, Gabe, remember that time we played a practical joke on you?
Oh, I completely do. Yes, at the art retreat.
Yep,
Yeah.
made you think I wasn't going to show up for my seminar, had you sweating bullets, and then I was
I think
really just
you
like
said,
hiding in the bathroom the whole time.
yeah, Brian. Yeah, that was great. That was fun. That was fun.
So what was that? Was that April Fool's or was that like for your birthday?
It was probably for April Fools because I think because I was out in New Mexico, so that would have been a springtime show. Although I don't think it was April Fools, but yeah.
Well, there was something where he needed to play a joke on you, and I was like, I was all for it.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, thanks. That's exactly what event producers love. Is
Yeah. Is there presenters hiding in the bathroom?
and the producer Brian, and he was like, I don't know. He seems sick. I don't know.
But like speaking of your nervousness question or whatever, I mean that just made it even worse.
Wait, what did doing the practical joke and hiding out first, or?
Yeah, being nervous of public speaking and having to go in front of a crowd, and then having to also like turn into a joke where I'm hiding in the bathroom and like, making people think I'm like, being careless and just missing my event time.
Where the fuck is Nick? I was probably running around trying to find you. I'm sure I was, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Yep, I remember your panic text messages too, just like sitting in the bathroom stall, just like watching you blow up my phone.
Yeah. Although for me, just personally, the best practical joke was Kim took a pregnancy test, or had a friend who was pregnant take a pregnancy test before she was pregnant. So that was my April Fool's joke. I took a pregnancy test. It's here. Look.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Thought you were having another one, huh?
I didn't do no. That was before Cecilia. I didn't. That was.
Oh.
That was the first thought that I could have possibly had a kid. Yeah.
I think she was just testing you.
Prep work.
Well, I don't do practical jokes now anymore. I remember telling Sean from Dark Side Tattoo that Lucasfilm was suing him, so he had to change his name. That was fun.
As a practical joke?
Yeah.
How far did you take it?
Oh, I went probably like 5-10 minutes. Like, we got to get the lawyers out. I mean, I don't know. Do you think you're going to get a lawyer that's going to be able to fight Lucasfilm?
And that's what the name Dark Side is taken from?
I don't know.
Or inspired by?
Maybe. Yeah. No, do you guys do art nights at Art Realm, or Art Realm's the studio, right?
Yeah. Not since the pandemic, unfortunately, but past few years before that, yeah, we had occasional art nights at the studio.
And you just moved into a new space a couple months ago. You want to talk about that a little bit, or?
Yeah, in June we moved our location to a nicer spot, and it has like separated tattoo rooms. So everyone has their own like separate private space, which is better for the whole like social distancing times we're in now. And It's been really, really helpful because we kind of had the pit style before where everyone's just in one big open room and closer to each other. But although that is fun sometimes for the banter and the sense of community, I don't know, I've always liked having my own kind of more secluded space to work. And then of course with all like the COVID stuff and wanting to keep people like further away and in their own separate spaces, it just works better with the way we have it now. So it's been really cool.
Nice. I saw the video. Did you guys must have some sort of drone action going on? It looked pretty cool.
Yeah. My co-owner Andrew is into drones and that kind of technology. He has this amazing photography drone, so comes in handy.
Cool. Huh. Billy from Scotland says, public speaking, the best known laxative to man.
Yeah, that is the truth, Billy. Great way to shit your pants as an adult.
To your point, though, it really is amazing to be able to, like, organize, what is working in a manner that is, pass offable to other people. And the effect that it has on, on your own work, right? Because when you're making a list or a thought or a concept that you're passing to other people, then the next time you're doing it, you can't compromise anything, right? So you're like, if I'm teaching this to other people, I really have to like practice what I preach, kind of a thing.
Yeah, there's that, and the process of having to organize your thoughts in order to present them to other people in the first place helps you take stock of what you're doing and learn your own process in greater detail too.
It's pretty insane. I remember those worldwide conferences were definitely pretty nuts for getting that all together.
Hey, that very first one in Rome was amazing. That was such a good time.
Very fun. That trip, the road trip with Alex, was pretty fun too. Woohoo! Full Italian experience.
Yep, that was awesome. Very fond memories. That was super cool.
Yeah.
Well, and just the crowd, I think, had never seen anything like that before in our industry, to my knowledge, anyways. And the crowd was just so receptive.
Yeah, it feels like. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard or seen anything like it before. That's yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun. I remember seeing Boris's tattoos massive and listening to him. That was a highlight, one of the highlights.
Was he at that first one in Rome or only later ones?
I think it was. Was it Rome? I thought it was.
Hey everyone, I'm back.
Hey,
How's it
guy.
going?
Howdy.
So, Nick, where are you at? Looks like you've got the whole board covered.
Yeah, I've refined the sky and the clouds. I've got those pretty much done. I'm not really going to touch the sky or the clouds for the rest of the painting. So I'm just getting into the detail pass of everything now. So I can just kind of detail out the midground and the foreground to my heart's content at this point. Take it as far as I want to.
Is the sky just a very soft, not very detailed kind of area, or is it because you've put a lot of time into it and gotten all that detail dialed in?
No, it's just I mean, clouds. So I just chunked on the paint, and then I took my fan blending brush, this guy right here,
Yep.
and just hit it like this, hit it like this, hit it like this, back, and then went in again and just kind of hit these cloud details a little bit, softened them again, and then boom, you're done with your with your sky. It's pretty easy, I guess.
That's funny. I've never really used one of these fan brushes, but I've got one just sitting on my easel, just saying, "Use me." So I'm going to try that tonight. I'm going to try to feather out my clouds a little bit with this thing.
That's good.
We have another person beaming in, Oliver. I think from Europe. If you could, I don't know if you could hear me, but if you could get your camera horizontal, that'd be cool. And yeah, Jeff, or sorry, Nick, just to fact check, that first Worldwide Conference, Rome, that was the one that, it was Alex DePasse, Jeff, Boris, you and I. And that was the only time I think I've seen Boris do his seminar. And yeah, just seeing his tattoos like on that massive screen, just, I mean, he's always blown me away, but it was like, holy Jesus.
Yeah. And Gogwe was there. Did you mention Gogwe?
Yeah. Here, actually, I'm going to start my video. I've got the, I don't know if you could see I got the folder. Oh, I lost it. Anyways.
Yes.
So, Oliver, where are you beaming in from?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yep.
We could hear you. The closer you get to your microphone, the better we could hear you.
Thanks for letting me in. I was sleeping already.
Ha.
It's 4 in the morning here.
And where is here?
In Europe, in Triads, Germany.
Ah, Germany, nice.
Yeah,
You are from the States. Huh?
we're doing a biomech party next week, which we're doing a little bit earlier in the evening so that Europeans can be part of it a little bit easier. I think we're starting, it'll be like midnight your time, but that's a little bit better.
Would be great. Nice. And how can I see it? How can I do I know?
It'll be on the same channel, but yeah, if you install the Reinventing the Tattoo app, which is free, you can get it at the App Store. Just look up Reinventing the Tattoo. You'll see the schedule of all the different things we have going on, and you can turn on notifications, and it'll let you know. If you have a supply list that you need to see or anything like that. So that's the best way if you want to know about all these different things that we're doing. Get the app.
Okay, thank you. Nice. I read a book some years ago. I think 15 years ago.
Nice. Well, the app is free, although the book is available through the app in an electronic form, and we're adding a bunch of stuff over the next few weeks. Although there's already a lot of new stuff that wasn't in there in the book. We've got some stuff from Nick and Russ Abbott and a number of other artists, Phil Garcia, Steve Butcher, Megan Jean Morris.
Cool. Sounds very good. I like the idea. It's a good thing in the Corona time to join some community stuff.
Yeah, you know what? We're trying to do stuff like this many times a week if we can. Like today, there was a drawing group earlier in the day. Like if you'd had the app, it would have sent you a notification. And that was at noon Eastern time, which had been like 6 o'clock for you. And that was a good one. I was involved in that one for part of it. And then tomorrow we've got another one for the Reinventing subscribers, which, that's a little bit later. That's 9 p.m. Eastern. So that would be back to 3 a.m. for you.
Okay, yeah, but it's good. It's good. If I know it, I can stay up. It's cool. Thank you very much. I will join it next time.
Nice.
And there's also the 9 a.m. one tomorrow.
Oh, right. Yeah. Tomorrow morning we got one at 9 a.m. With Jake Meeks, and his drawing groups are always great. And so yeah, that's what, 3 in the afternoon in Germany.
Is it all for free, or have to cost money, or how?
The
how
only
you
ones
mean?
that are not free are the Monday night ones. Usually are just for the paid subscribers of the Reinventing content. But all the other stuff, the Sunday night paint groups, these are for the general public. We're trying to have as much stuff as possible that's like, things people can participate in, not just watch, but actually be part of.
Okay. And is it okay if I ask another friend from Germany? He's very good in biomechanics stuff.
Yeah. Bring as many friends as you can. I mean, we're looking to spread the word. I mean, we're trying to provide something, especially for the places that are shut down right now, and have a place where people can meet and do activities together and chat and just try to get some sense of community that you might get at a convention, except we can't go to conventions right now.
Okay. Thank you for the information, okay?
Thanks for showing up.
Thank you very much.
And then we also have Seth Blood has joined us.
Hey Seth, where are you coming from?
Hey, Texas,
Right
East
on.
Texas. I meant to start this earlier with y'all, but I guess I misunderstood the time.
Oh yeah, you know what? The time zone thing, it screws people up all the time, including me. And I mean, like just the other day we had this thing with Russ Abbott, and I was looking forward to it all day, and the time arrived and I'm just sitting there happily tattooing. Oh, I got another hour. But so I had to actually start the thing while I was still tattooing. But at least our audience are all tattoo artists and they get it, it wasn't like embarrassing or anything. Just slightly clunky.
We do this so much that it'll be 1 minute before showtime, and I'm like, guy will show up.
I think. I hope.
Wait a minute.
I mean,
only one time out of 10. It was with Russ. It was fun. I was like, oh Russ, here you go. I'll be back.
Well, I'm so used to these things happening at 9 Eastern. I guess I was just a little off guard there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's near impossible to get it perfectly right when you're dealing with global, time zones. That was one of the biggest things that I realized going from real world events to online events is, everyone's literally in different time zones.
Yeah, that was my mistake. I was thinking 9 o'clock our time.
Well, you made it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We're still going strong. And actually was away for 45 minutes myself. But we've got a good group here, a lot of regulars who've been coming to these drawing and painting groups for a few months now, as long as we've been doing them. And it's a nice, steadily growing group. It's gotten to a point where we've had to start having additional paint and drawing groups just to have room for everybody, because it just seems like this is a great way to sort of make up for our lost community.
Yeah, being able to paint with other people makes it easier to want to do it for me.
Yeah, actually, this is true. It's true. I mean, we shouldn't have to be in a group to want to pick up a paintbrush, but there is something motivating about these kinds of things, I think.
Definitely.
So Billy, our tattooer friend from Scotland, says, I've been tattooing almost 15 years and never painted anything as yet. This has been very inspiring and making me want to break out my paints and start learning.
Well, Billy, just pay attention to our schedule. We do this kind of thing at least twice a month, but I'm sure it'll be more than that in the near future. And yeah, there's no way you can't learn if you pay attention to even just a little bit of what's being said. And of course, you know, you're able to ask questions, you know, and the kind of things that you're just not sure, you know, how to navigate around. You've got access to not just people like Nick and I, but the other people in the group here. There's a lot of experience in the room.
And Baxter featuring Nick. I'm going to beam in on my phone and effectively take a 10-minute break from driving.
Okay, well, we'll catch you in a little bit.
Sweet. Well, I'll still be monitoring. I'll be back monitoring in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So who else have we got in the room? Anyone else show up while I was away?
Yeah, T-Vaughn, I'm here.
Oh, nice. Everyone's
Yeah.
being so quiet. T-Vaughn, what are you working on?
It is more or less just like a cloud landscape.
Nice.
A little bit of a I don't know, some buildings underneath.
So yeah, I guess at some point after Gabe gets back, we can take a short break to just do a quick share of everyone's projects, and then I would love to also get a close-up look at what Nick is doing, and maybe he can explain a little bit about where he's at with his technique here.
Yeah, right now I'm just in the noodle phase. It's just about, you know, I have all my basic values, colors, and shapes blocked in, so now I can just refine them as needed with smaller brushes. I'm using a number 2 round right now just to fill in little trees and cliffs on this piece of land here. But still haven't touched the lower portion of the beach and everything. That's going to be a little challenging.
How so?
Of course.
Managing
What that?
managing color and value. It needs to appear dark, but the water is kind of like deceptively light. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I see what you mean. There's an area where the water is kind of darkened by the reflection of that rock mass.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
not gonna be like that, but it's sure.
It's the kind of thing that would probably be a lot easier if you weren't doing it alla prima, and you could let it dry and, you know, come back and do a glaze over it, and, you know, just kind of darken the whole thing a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, and like the water is definitely not finished at all. You know, that's pretty rough at the moment. But this further landmass and the sky is all done. And this closer landmass is getting close to being done. And this triangular piece of foreground grass in the corner just needs a few little blades of grass, a few little scratchy highlights, and that'll be done. So it's really just about the water and the beach, which is probably the hardest part of this whole thing for me.
Well, you know, it sounds like you've kind of clearly identified what your problems are going to be ahead of time, and of course, part of that comes with experience. But you know, this goes back to something that you know, I've been trying to encourage with myself with the projects that I do, is to figure out what my goals are. You know, and they can be little goals, like, for example, I want to make sure in this one that I have a nice sense of descending contrast in the different rock masses, so that you know, each one exists in the right place on the value scale, so that they appear to drop off into the distance in a convincing way. So that's one of my goals, is to do that. There's a certain feeling also that's a little bit harder to describe with the brush work and the finish that I want to have on this. I know what it is. It's a hard thing to say out loud in words, but that's another thing that's sort of a concrete goal. So, you know, I don't know if you ever do that, is, you know, kind of have things that you're specifically working on with each piece, where you actually have concrete goals. But that is something that I always try to do, is say, what am I making sure that I do with this piece? What are some things that I definitely want to make sure that I do?
Yeah. Yep. That's how I tend to think about it as well. And I don't know, for this piece, it's just about really knowing the beach and the waves crashing into the beach were going to be the most challenging part for me. I think it's about trying to master that sense of value and the reflection of the sky in the little puddles of water, but just making that convincing, I guess, so that those puddles don't look like they're floating or like out of place.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I think about water is, it's pretty easy to paint water if, I mean, like the way it is in my painting, there's some rock masses that are coming in front of it, and you're kind of seeing through them a window of this water, and it's got some reflections, but you really don't see up close anywhere that the water is interfacing with the land, where that surface tension is giving way to pebbles and stuff. All of a sudden you've got a real challenge on your hands, especially, you know, if you're trying to simplify it, you know, on a small canvas like that and still make it feel like that natural, you know, boundary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely challenging to get the little things accurate that sell the illusion, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, another one of the things that I set as a goal tonight for this piece is with these land masses as they get farther off in the distance. Another thing that happens in real life is things get cooler, bluer as they get farther away. And, you know, with the color scheme that I'm doing on this piece, it's a little tricky to do that, but I still want to try at least to see what happens with if I go cooler with these farther back things, if I can pull that off without losing the sunset vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I find with my landscape painting, you can afford to make things much bluer than you think you can.
I'm sorry, somebody's if people are talking in the background, I mean, you're welcome to join the conversation, but if you're just talking in the background, you might want to mute your mic. But I'm sorry, Nick, what were you saying? About going bluer, right? You can go bluer than you would in real life, or what?
Yeah, you can usually, I've found in paintings, you can afford to go bluer than you think you can.
Okay,
for
right,
those,
yeah.
For those distant objects, it feels weird at first, but it looks convincing if you let yourself go a little bit bluer.
Yeah, and of course, if you're consistent with it across the whole piece, then that's when it pulls together and starts to look natural.
Yeah.
So, Gabe, are you back on yet?
Yeah, well, I'm still monitoring. I'll be back in front of the computer in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
But do you guys know any of the? I was looking up for the art history section. Some of the painters that do the translucent water kind of madness. It seems like there's some people from maybe the turn of the century that were masters at that kind of stuff. Does that ring a bell, or any particular names that I could track down?
I don't know if I know of any classical artists whose water was in particular, I mean, Maxfield Parrish, any
Ah.
any kind of landscape stuff that he did was just dynamite.
That's the I think that might, or yes, awesome. That's I'm adding that to my list as we speak.
And he's also a guy who was really big on having the right reference, and he would build sculptures or models of cliffs that filled his entire garage and little houses and stuff that he could use as references. So, and of course, you all know I love doing stuff like that. So when I find any artist in history that's done any kind of model making or whatever, I always take notice.
There's a photographer, Gregory Crudson. He takes still photographs, but he builds.
I'm sorry, we just lost your sound.
Builds out these movie sets.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
You got sound now?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but it's all good.
Well, I was talking about this photographer, Gregory Crudson, who takes large scale photographs. They're still images, but he builds out an entire movie set to stage these photographs. So it's like the size of a massive city block or larger, basically. And so it's taking your liking to build models to in even more extreme state.
Wow.
Just for a still photograph.
Amazing.
Just one. Build all that just for one photograph, or just a few, or however many, I guess. So.
Well,
yeah,
I
so
think
he'll take over. He'll take over an entire neighborhood, and so he'll bring in the massive lights on cranes that they use in movies, and it's basically like a movie set, but for a still image. It's insane.
I think the idea there is if you're doing something where you've pulled out every resource, you're going deeper into it than any sane person ever would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you have a chance of going somewhere and producing something that's actually truly remarkable.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and if you want, in his case, if you want a natural looking photograph, I mean, there's no, and you're not going to manipulate, with Photoshop afterwards, then there's no other way to do it.
When I lived in Vancouver, I modeled in a very much smaller version of something like that. It was like a whole day of just setting up one photo. It was just a room, so not a whole neighborhood, but it was very trippy because the guy was very particular about every little piece of jewelry that every person was wearing and how our legs were crossed or all this. And I never actually ended up getting to see the photo, I'm realizing.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're willing to go into those kinds of places where you're going to have to steer your entire career in order to even accommodate it, to find the resources to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The kinds of remarkable things that have been done, and you can kind of figure out the ones that haven't, right? There's room for some wild ideas that are almost out of reach, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can imagine, okay, these resources, I think I could pull them together. I think I'm the right person for the job. Make this this vision a reality. Filmmakers, the kinds of crazy things that they the amount of resourcefulness required to make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, movies are pretty incredible. I'm actually very impressed with a lot of movies, like even computer animation, like Rango. When you look at how much time it takes to just create one character, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean that's why Rango is so fleshed out, you know, and every frame of it has got as much depth to it as something would have if it were, you know, filmed for real, because you know they wanted to make sure that it stood up to close inspection.
Right. Yeah.
Has
I think
anybody
I watched
seen
it.
the? Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Has anybody seen the claymation? It's The Adventures of Mark Twain. I think it's from the 70s.
Yes.
And it was a full motion claymation.
So good.
It's
I don't know
pretty
if I've seen that one.
spectacular.
I've heard about it, but
You can find the whole thing on YouTube, I think, for free.
oh, cool.
Yeah, it's worth a watch. It's pretty spectacular.
Your claymation is incredible. It's
Another
really
one,
cool.
a similar title, extremely dark and messed up. The Secret Adventures of Tom Thumb.
Oh yeah.
Anyone seen that? Yeah, that's incredible. There's actual like biomech torture sequence in it. You know, it's nuts.
Cool. What was
Very
that?
dark.
Adventures of Tom Thumb?
The Secret Adventures of Tom Thumb. Yeah. Sounds like an airplane taking off somewhere. Oh, that would be Gabe making tea, is my guess.
Serious tea.
Definitely realizing how much I should go shopping for some more paint colors. I've just got very basic, and I can see where I'm missing the ones that you had there, Nick, and the difference that it's making in my color scheme. How I'm having to kind of make it up as I go.
What colors are you working with?
Oh goodness, what is it? There's like some sort of magenta. It's the pinks that I'm finding issues with. I've got Peryllian red and quinacridone violet instead of that alizarin.
Alizarin. Yeah, quinacridone is not that far off from alizarin, but alizarin is definitely warmer.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a couple others that are a little different, but it's like, it just means a little bit more petting it over top and finding out how to blend them.
It's a good exercise in resourcefulness.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, you end up in a place where you just can kind of follow your intuition and just say, "I'll just add this," and
Yeah.
it'll get it there. Oh, that didn't do it. Okay, I'll add this, and
Exactly.
you know, you'll be able to just sort of steer it there.
Yeah, and I find if you just keep painting and you don't give up on it right away, then it just ends up doing something really cool and ends up looking better and better. Just gotta be patient.
Yeah, so I'd be curious how many people there are in our group here who have had the experience of trying painting and getting frustrated and are kind of in a place where you're trying to get past that. And that's sort of like why you're here. I'd love to hear from you if this is your situation.
I mean, I get frustrated during every painting.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
it's always an exercise of problem solving a lot of the way.
That's really all it is.
Well, and one of the problems is us, right? And our own doubt and of course, in the course of working on a painting, you're going to have part of it where, the brush strokes you're putting down appear to be making it where you want it and you're happy and it's looking good. And then you're like, I need to lighten this whole area. And you work it and you're like, oh man, I just fucked it, right?
Yeah.
And that's natural. That'll happen, right? And in fact, I've kind of come to recognize, and I'm like, there's that moment, right? The hump. The hump is just sort of like inevitable. It's part of the process of doing anything, even a tattoo, right? There's at least a mini hump in each one. Every project is a sort of a hill, and every hill has got a hump at the top, and you'll recognize when you're there, because that's that moment when it feels like, maybe it would be nice if I didn't have to finish this, maybe it'd be nice if I could put down this wheelbarrow and just, walk away from this, right? But if instead of reacting that way, you say, oh yeah, there it is. That familiar thing, the hump. I'm at the hump. That's been my gambit, just I try to recognize when I'm at the hump and just say, oh yeah, there it is. It's a landmark in this process. I know it's going to happen because I'm making a piece of art, and that hump is inevitable. Sometimes less so than others, and sometimes it's less crippling, sometimes more. But by just recognizing it and identifying it as a natural landmark that you're sure to see in one form or another, I think it's a little bit less of a, oh man, I think I might have to give up. Instead, it might feel like something that, oh yeah, I can definitely push through this. I knew it was coming.
Totally.
So I am back in front of the computer with a hot chocolate, and I can.
All right. Are you all feeling ready to show off your pieces?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, Sandy's first.
All right.
And if you could also let us know how to find you while people are looking at your work.
Okay. So once again, the colors are a little bit off on here, but yeah, I'm feeling okay about it. This is much warmer in person. Everything's a lot warmer in person.
Oh, you're looking at it in your screen, and
Yeah, like that is definitely
Wait a minute.
color. But yeah, Nick, I'm definitely feeling you on this part being very difficult to make look like the beach is just having waves coming up. That's a tough one.
There's some subtle stuff you got to be able to pull off there to really get that. So that's my struggle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming along good though, and
Yeah.
Sandy has just recently started using oils. She was been an acrylic person until 4 or 5 months ago.
Yep. And barely an acrylic person. I was barely painting, and so this has definitely been enormous for my painting abilities. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
All right.
Leo. We've got Leo next.
How's it going?
Awesome.
I'm still working on. I haven't been able to work on it since last week when we got together on Sunday, so I'm still kind of dialing in this. See it with the glare on there, but
Can you take your camera? Can you take your phone camera off and give us a little bit of a tour?
Yeah, nice.
I've got a iPad, so I'm manipulating this giant thing right now. Hold on. There we go.
The slower you can go, clearly, the slower the better. Yeah.
So trying to dial in some glazing tonight on that tree branch, and now I'm starting to put in some foliage around.
Yeah, the problem with that is, where do you even stop, right?
Yeah. Well, I just want to put a hint of it, and then I'm going to move on to the beast. Because again, it was like Nick was talking earlier, like, you know, when do you walk away from it or dial it back?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Spectacular.
one of my that's one of my constant struggles.
Yeah, like
It's kind of funny because
what would you want someone to look at first?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that guy, the
Yeah.
creature. So,
right. So now you've got to make him even more dialed in than all that crazy stuff.
yeah. Or I'm
Or
hoping.
use some atmospheric glazes to push that stuff, you know,
Yeah.
simpler.
Yeah. And it's something I started a drawing for a class I'm going to take in March, and one thing that I'm really trying to keep in mind is, okay, these are my focuses in this piece. Everything else needs to be secondary, you know. So again, you know, I've been working on this for a while, and I'm starting to realize, man, I've gotten a little crazy with everything.
Well, it's funny because, you know, your tattoo style is the opposite. You know, it's very, very much, you know, it's very tattooy, you know.
Yeah.
It's clean and simplified and you know, kind of like careful shape optimization and very spare detail.
And that's something I had to work hard at with tattooing, because in my earlier career, I just got I tried to do what I was doing with my paintings, and it was too much.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
And
now I need to carry that back into my painting.
And Leo, you and Rain are going to be leading a fantasy art jam on one of these upcoming Sundays, correct?
Yeah, mid-January, I think the 17th.
Awesome.
Right.
Have we set on a time for that, or?
We haven't. I know we're settled on the date, but we haven't talked about a time yet.
Well, we should.
Well, 9 o'clock Eastern has been our sort of traditional start time for these things. I don't know.
I'm fine with that.
I mean, it's not great for the Europeans, but I think for people that are actually still working, you know, it's Sunday, so most tattooers who are working are going to be done by 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that's Eastern. So, like, are you Pacific or Mountain time?
I'm Mountain, so that's 7 o'clock for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is perfect for me.
Awesome. Sounds like it's a done deal.
Okay.
The January 17th at 9 Eastern.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Cool. Let's see here. So, who's next up on the highlight? Melissa, Sync. Spotlight for everyone.
All right.
Voila.
Something new here.
Oh, sweet.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Little Oregon scenery. We get
Yeah,
this
I love the background.
we have this wonderful sky that gets super grayed out when it's really rainy and whatnot. So with all the wildfires and stuff we had over the summer, this is kind of like one of those spots that people went to go swimming and whatnot. There's more like private area, like pools. So just kind of wanting to play with that. This is it's a lot of fun. It's been a while since I did some landscape.
Hey, you nailed that distant part.
Still working on it though. Like these trees here are a little bit close. They're like mid-ground. So I've got to pull in some more detail and layer in, but and then this is a waterfall here that comes forward.
I'll tell you what, though, you can almost, you know, it's so hazy in the background that I instantly feel the raininess. It's pretty effective that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're cool. Okay. Now we'll try to get Oliver on next. So Oliver, I did mute you because there was. Oh wait. So Oliver, we are going to ask to unmute you while your camera's getting turning on and everything, and we could highlight Seth next. Spotlight for everyone.
Yeah. It's
Oh, wow.
I came in real late, so I was just trying to put something down that I can work with, but I'm still trying. This is my reference, but
Okay.
I got my canvas a little too wet, so my oranges are getting too. I might have to wait on the top, and so I was just kind of putting in more white to kind of give the water look. And
Yeah,
so
you know,
that's
and one way to avoid mud in situations like that sky is that you would actually put the orange area down first and then around it. But you can still get in there right now with a paper towel and blot up some of those dark colors, and you might then be able to put down the orange.
Yeah, I'll definitely try that. I just wanted to try to do something. I've been contemplating doing something, so this is a good excuse to, not excuse, I guess a good reason to try to do some more, because I look up to everything Nick does, and I see it all the time. It's awesome. I've been following you for a long time, so just being able to paint with you and kind of listen to what you're talking about definitely helps. But even though I started late.
Hey, late is better than never, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
just taking the time out to be here is the important part.
A lot of the time we got people in our groups who have like not had time to like clean up and eat, but it's like, yeah, they just finished work. They're here. They're doing it.
Yeah, you just try to do some, get into it so you can be a part of it.
So, Oliver, as soon as you click unmute, you want to click unmute, can you unmute and maybe turn your camera to the side? Yeah.
What's that?
What time is it end?
Oh, it doesn't have an exact end, but they're going through and showing everyone.
Oh, we're almost there. There we go. Okay. I know that it's late for you, so I'll spotlight you next. Yes, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, hell yeah.
Huge. Almost a mural.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
What medium?
It's acrylic.
Okay.
I make it very thin in a kind of plastic caps. And have something like I did with tattooing 3 or 4 mixes and try to come make the background first, and then I try to work it out from the background. And I work with a little trick with a little projector. I make a little drawing on an iPad, and then I project it I make a photo of the background, and then I draw on the photo on the iPad in Procreate, and then I project it on the background, and I make the lines with a little marker. It's kind of different. I see everybody of you working with oil, so it's a different approach.
Yeah, ink wash.
Yeah, ink wash. But it's on a canvas.
Oh, okay. Ink wash on canvas. Nice.
Yes, like acrylic, but like a medium thickness, like not really thin, but not thick. And I have some
then
oil
you're just
color.
washing it.
Maybe on the end I go with the oil color a little bit on top.
Okay.
To smear it, but I have to try.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks again for staying up wicked late or getting up.
Yeah.
It's an honor for me. I'm a big fan of you.
Good party.
Here now we've got Tivan.
All right.
Hey.
Yeah. Nice. So what have we got here?
So yeah, it's just bit of a cloudscape, and then it's got, you can't really see probably on the painting, but it's got like a telephone pole that
Okay,
goes
yeah.
through here, and some wires, and then another one, and then some buildings, yeah, down towards the bottom, and then
So
some
this
trees.
is, yeah, I can kind of see the silhouette of the landscape. So there's really some intricate kind of information you're getting down there.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just gonna kind of focus on trying to get the clouds to be you know, believable, I guess, and then I'll go through and do the silhouette and stuff. But I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's the
Oh
reference.
yeah,
Yeah.
fairly complex. I mean, it's almost explosive.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a picture I took.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I wish you luck with that one. That's definitely going to be
Yeah, I'm not planning on
Oh, heavy
finishing it
lifting.
tonight,
yeah.
but yeah.
Okay. So you're up next, Guy.
Oh yeah, it's all shiny. So let me see if I can hold this. Yeah. So yeah, I've just been mostly working the sky. I've painted this in with oil, and I've just been kind of putting colored glazes over landscape elements. But the sky is getting a pretty thorough pass, and I'm possibly going to end up losing most of my night there because to really make it look good, especially looking at Nick's painting and how creamy and smooth everything looks. I feel like it needs that. So that's where I'm mostly focusing.
Gotta try out that fan blender.
Nice.
Yeah, you know what? I think that that's one of the places where you get into the difference between liquid and linseed oil. Even with that 45-minute break, this is pretty firm. It's winter time, and we've got a heater cranking over here, and it just, man, it's almost dry.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know what? You just reminded me. I didn't start using fan blender brushes until I stopped using liquid and just started using straight linseed oil.
Oh, there you go.
And back to you, Nick.
Okay.
So now you're doing close detailing, right? So I'd love to see that. Yeah.
So yeah, I've been dialing in the rocks along the beach here. It's getting a little bit better, a little more realized. Probably needs maybe like 20 more minutes of just fine tuning some of the little reflections in the pools and finding the edges of the rocks a little better. And then the only other spot to really resolve is like the foreground waves, because those are just kind of roughed in right now. But I need to really find the edge of those waves and make sure that shadow is a little more dialed in than it is now. But oh yeah, and then add a little bit of grass right here. But that's just a few little flicks with a paintbrush, and that'll look great. So the majority of the work is just right in here.
Oh. Very nice. And of course, this is the colors, the sky, everything would be something you just wouldn't be able to capture plein air because it's such a transient thing.
Yeah, so when I do paint a plein air sunset, I want to get on location actually prior to sunset and get everything kind of blocked in, and use a compass on my phone to orient myself so I know where the sun's going to be, and kind of leave that part and then just blast that in like as it's happening.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
That's how I've done some sunset plein airs where I've managed to capture it pretty nicely, but you got to really prepare and you got to paint very efficiently. And it's like a very technical process, basically.
Yeah. When I talk about painting skies, I would like to try to approach it from a less technical and more expressive way, and see if I can just throw down all the clouds in 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and then maybe as the sky is fading, I can, do the foreground silhouette trees or whatever. Are you familiar with William Hawkins? He paints a lot of skies.
No, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, very, very energetic, chunky, fast sort of look. And I don't know, maybe he spends more time on it than it looked like it, but you get the sense that it's a fairly quick process, and that a lot of these probably are, I don't want to say speed painted, but when you're painting these things in person, it really, the pressure is on.
Yeah, and so you think he's not blending at all? He's just painting alla prima, just applying without moving it around and smoothing it.
Correct. Yeah. It's really not it's not a blended look.
Yeah, it's tough to do. I mean, that dude's probably painted hundreds of those things to be able to just chunk it on and not have to move it around at all.
In the 6 months I've been following, he's painted hundreds of those things. It's pretty impressive.
Hey, is this going to be going on for a little while? Or are people going to wrap this up? Or
Nick, how much longer do you think you've got?
I could spend another half hour on this, but we could also end it whenever's
We've
good.
got all the time in the world.
Yeah, so I think Nick's looking at, relatively soon finish, right? I mean, I could paint all night here because of, I don't have a reference to match, and I'm just kind of beating on it until it feels right. And also, it's a significantly larger canvas than what Nick is doing.
awesome. Well, I'm gonna step away for a minute, and I'm gonna try and come right back. But if for some reason I'm not back by the time this ends, this has been awesome.
Right on. Well, it's been awesome having you. And if not this one, we'll see you at the next one.
Absolutely. I'll see you tomorrow for sure. Thank you,
man.
Nick.
No, thank you too.
All right. Well, I might see you guys back here in just a little bit, but
excellent.
Yeah.
Cheers.
All right, late.
All right, I think I'm actually going to sign off as well. But thank you so much, Nick and Guy and Gabe and everybody. It's been a lot of fun.
Right on. Well, as always, great having you.
Yeah. Have a
Yeah,
good
thanks
night.
for being here.
Can't wait to see everybody's finished stuff posted up later. Are we having a special hashtag for that?
Yeah, we probably should. I think that at least a few of you besides Sandy are painting Nick's reference, right? Or was Sandy the only one?
I think she's the only one.
Okay.
Oh. Maybe there's some people in the chat that didn't come into the Zoom that are doing it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we often will use the Reinventing Drawing Group hashtag if we don't come up with something else. There's always that.
All right.
That's been growing pretty steadily.
Yeah. All right. Well, good night, Sandy.
Have a wonderful night, guys.
Cheers.
Hey, take care.
Yeah, clouds are one of those things that they can be very intricate, very detailed, and at the same time you have to make sure that amidst all that detail you don't end up making them look too solid,
Yeah. They are very challenging. It's way too easy to make a cloud look cheesy, like a kid's, drawing where you just make this like puffy shape, this generic like round puffy shape.
Yeah, instead of I'm trying to go real. I'm probably trying to go darker than I should have. I've done more lighter clouds than these ones.
Well, and the way I'm painting them. I'm trying to create these movements of them, but the way that they like break apart and scatter and that sort of thing still feels very contrived, working without a reference and just trying to come up with it. It's one of those things that looked fine when it was rough, but now that I'm starting to really dial it in, you can really see the shortcomings and how unnatural some of them look. So, I mean, I'm okay with it. Letting this be a little bit of a stylized painting.
Yeah, I think you're in the fantasy genre, and I think that works.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. I think that's a little probably more free, not really tied down to try and make it.
Right. Yeah, of course. And I'm all about that. But there's that part of me that just wants to be able to nail it, and so when you're doing something from your imagination, you can give it more realism without a reference.
Yeah.
Like every time I build a model for the bio stuff, I'm able to do things without models a lot better. So I always pick up a little something, usually something very specific, some twist or a turn that I hadn't gotten before.
Yeah, when you drew something, a lot it tends to fight you. Here you can see the shape.
Well, and with something like bio, it's a shape language, right? And each of us, everyone who does bio has their own sort of shape language, and it's very easy to get habitual, and you start to just draw things the same way over and over again. And yeah, that's one thing I always try to avoid and push it forward a little bit each year.
You change it.
Well, I collaborate with a lot of other artists, and partly in an effort to keep things moving along. Of course, that didn't really happen very much in 2020. A little bit, but
Not as much as it should have.
no, man, the stuff that got canceled. Spring 2020 was just going to be such a killer, season of collaborations.
And they had to ruin it.
I don't want to sound like a complainer, though. I think about my own life and how bad it's been for some. I really have no place to complain, and actually, I don't want to sound weird or anything, but this year has actually been pretty good for me. I've had a chance to branch out, try new things. The whole thing with all these Zoom calls and online activities with people that's not something I bothered to do before. It's a lot of effort, and there has to be a good reason. And then all of a sudden we've got this really great reason, and by the time we have something resembling normalcy, we'll be so smooth at doing this and practiced, and it'll be part of our habit. It'll be easy to do, right?
Yeah.
Just a new resource. So yeah, it's been a great time to kind of take a plunge into this whole thing, and I kind of felt, because I'd stopped doing conventions, that with the exception of the artists I was collaborating with, it was kind of hard to feel as connected to the tattoo community as I used to when Michelle and I were frequent convention goers.
Yeah, because you're not like actually physically talking to people.
Yeah. it's not so much, I mean, physically talking to people, I mean, that's nice, right? I mean, definitely way better than this, but at the same time, the thing about this that's cool is there's a random factor to it. You know, I don't know who I'm going to meet. You know, I'm going to meet new people.
Yeah.
I'm going to get into conversations with people I've never talked to before, just like I would if I was hanging around at the after party at a convention, right? And I like that. It's scratches that itch at least a little bit, and you know, part of me enjoys the solitude of you know, this rural lifestyle and everything, but there is a part of me that's always wanting to connect with my artist peers. And you know, obviously this whole educational thing that I do, I must like it. You know, I must like talking to people. So this has been a great new format to be able to do that in.
Well, I think that's important. That's important. The education part of it.
And of course, we're also, you know, we're educating a child right now, and thinking more like educators in some sense. And I like the fact that this is the kind of group where she can be tuned in, and you know, it's, you know, fairly serious study going on. But we're still enjoying ourselves. You know, I think that's a thing that kids need to see is parents, you know, grown-ups having a good time doing grown-up stuff that happens to be creative and cool. It gives them a hope, you know.
Yeah. Well, my dad told me if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Sure. It's like
I've been
having fun
in that.
20 hours a day.
Yeah. It's definitely fun. I mean, since I've started tattooing. I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't know if I did or not.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of things I'm working on right now. Those of you who were tuned into the drawing group that Jason Leeser was leading earlier today, was working on this sort of wacky waterfall landscape thing that Killian Moon and I are doing. And it's very much at this point a depth of field problem, you know, because it's this complex landscape, and I'm trying to nail the value on each layer of the landscape so that it locates itself, you know, at the right depth and space. And it's a pretty tricky thing once you really, you know, when you're relying on value alone to spell out depth, you really have to nail it. But I'm finding that I'm sort of running into that same issue with these clouds. I feel like I really want them to be the right distance away in space. And, you know, I've got these mountain ranges here that are lighter than the clouds, and the clouds are farther than the mountains. And yet I want to have enough contrast in them that the color looks rich, and, you know, the sunset is able to have the dynamic range that it needs.
It's real tricky to run into boxes like that, like being boxed in with certain choices you have to make. Definitely. Yeah, definitely happens a lot in tattooing, but sometimes with painting, like you just described, for sure, I find myself in those boxes like, all right, something has to give.
Yeah, and another thing that I struggle with when I do skies is my tattooer's reflexes, where things have to be dialed in and specific. You know, everything needs to be, you know, purposeful. And it's hard to let myself just let things get a little mishy-mashy here and there. And sometimes that's exactly what's needed. And of course, when you've got a number of elements that are loose, then the tight things stand out more, you know, and if everything's tight, then it's harder to make anything the center of interest.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, you've got a little bit of the advantage of working with a photo reference that, you know, the camera naturally, you know, forces a choice on itself. And, you know, either if it's an autofocus, it's going to choose something that seems, you know, it's making guesses about the user's intentions. There's a face, it focuses on the face or whatever. But you usually end up with a lot of stuff that just doesn't have that much detail. The camera just kind of defaults to that. Really have to have a very tiny aperture and a long exposure if you want to have everything detailed. So usually it doesn't look that way. And when you're trying to come up with it just out of your imagination, it's a little bit harder to filter like that. And I've even forced myself to just use this like 1/2-inch brush for everything, but even that is not proven enough of a simplifying factor.
Well, and what you just said, Guy, what you just said actually is perfect, applies perfectly to plein air painting. When you're taking in the entire landscape with your own eyes, and you can really just see like every single tree, every branch on every tree, because you can just dart your eyes around and have them focus on every little thing that you want them to focus on. It's very challenging when you're first getting into plein air painting to know when, where, and how to strategically simplify what needs to be simplified.
And even to accept that you're not losing anything important. It's like, oh man, this whole scene is so beautiful. I want to capture it all. And anything less is just going to be diminished.
Yeah.
And instead accepting that it's that narrowing down, that filtering that makes the painting interesting.
Well, yeah, and ironically, at times, if you do it right, it actually makes it more realistic too, because in our normal lives, the way we look at things is we don't record every detail of every object. We glance over and our brain computes the things we care about.
Right. Yeah. It'll fill in the foliage on the trees and that kind of thing. And
yeah. Once our brain recognizes our eyes looking at a tree, it knows what a tree is, and you don't actually count every leaf on every tree you look at.
I want to say that I've seen, I don't know if it was you or somebody was doing some like paintings and like looking at the scene, like you're talking about doing it on there, and they would set up a camera to go back to, or just a live camera to look at, so you can look at it in a picture, or instead of just like you said, just looking at everything and seeing everything, because you're going to focus on things that you find interesting or whatever, just to step back and take a look at the whole picture using a screen to do that, or some sort of way to maybe boxing your hands so you can just look at everything instead of one thing, or focusing on one thing, getting lost in the
blurring your
moment.
eyes a little bit is another thing that, I mean, I often have my eyes blurred and I just let them snap into focus occasionally.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well, just like squinting, basically.
I don't know who else. It could have been a video I watched. Jeff Gogway, is that how you say it? Or, I'm not sure how to say it.
You got it right.
He says that in a couple of videos to focus on, or to have something that's really focused, and then the rest is just lost or like not so focused, but it's enough to make your brain make it that way, because your brain's going to automatically fill it in. So if you have like a background that's blurry, but in the right, and all this stuff is in the right spot, it's going to make sense. Because your brain's going to make it make sense.
Yeah, well, it kind of mimics like, you know, of course, if you look around, everything appears as you're looking at it to be sharp. But if you just glance at a whole scene, you're not looking around and recording all the detail. You're just getting kind of an impression of the whole scene, and you might only really focus your eyes on, you know, the center of interest, whatever it is that you're really looking at. You know, let's say you're about to take somebody's photo that's standing in front of the Grand Canyon. You know, you're not taking in the entire canyon, although you're getting an impression of it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a really experienced landscape painter, you know, part of their thing is they're able to get a clear impression and simplify it, you know, and you know, I think a lot of the time they're just identifying what makes it attractive to them, what are the features of what they're seeing that are worth putting in the painting.
Yeah, that make it translatable. I think that's what I still have some issues with, because I get lost in where I'm working or what I'm looking at. I have to try to step back and look at it differently. This might look better from a distance or in a different way than it does when looking at it real close.
And sometimes also you need to just step away from it and come back later. That's another thing that can be really useful.
Yeah, I've found that I like some of my pictures later than I do at the moment.
Right. Well, because at the moment, we're not just looking at the picture, we're comparing it against whatever expectations we might have dangled in front of ourselves when we first got started. Said, oh yeah, I'm going to accomplish this, and this is how happy I'm going to be, and this is how good it's going to be, and this is roughly how it's going to look, and then of course we're looking at the thing and might feel disappointed, even if it's a good piece, right? It's, you know, we're talking about goals and setting goals for ourselves. You know, sometimes you might produce a good piece, but that just doesn't necessarily meet those goals. But then, you know, if you have enough time, you might come back to it and say, oh, you know, it's a good thing I didn't meet those goals, because this is better than that. You know, this is something that actually kind of moved me forward a little bit. And you know, now I've got some new tricks. And if I had, you know, just merely met my expectations, maybe not so much.
I'm getting pretty close to my ending point here with this painting. Probably another like 15 minutes I could spend on it before it's just kind of overkill.
Yeah. So this is probably pretty typical for the amount of time you would put into a plein air, or are those quicker because you're working in a more pressure kind of situation?
No, this is actually probably like the exact amount of time I'd put into a plein air. And I've tried to do this entire painting session tonight as if I was painting plein air.
Okay.
I guess so.
Are you doing a lot of your plein air in Austin, or are you going somewhere else? The recent
ones? lately in Austin, but I mean, I've done plein air all around the world at this point.
You can't really go many places. I guess that would be kind of an obvious answer.
Yeah.
Where was the last one that you did? The most recent, I guess the more recent one you did. you posted just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the area where you paint. Was that a live air one, or is that just one you just did?
Um,
Based off a reference.
the lake view.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's the
just
lake I
recently
live
posted.
on. So that's like the view from my porch.
Oh, nice. Okay. Perfect. That lake. I'm trying to think what lake. There's several of them over there. So
Lake Travis.
like you're living right off of Lake Travis.
Yeah.
That's an awesome lake. That's an amazing lake.
Yeah, that doesn't suck, right?
No, not at all.
Definitely not.
No, I've been around there for a long time, so I know. We used to just drive down the roads of Lake Travis, just look at the houses in the lake itself, and there's some amazing houses out there. That's another piece of architecture I definitely love is like building. I do a little bit of building myself. Carpentry work definitely takes an artistic eye to do that.
Yeah, for sure. At a high level, absolutely.
Or even, you know, I mean, I feel like a lot of the stuff we've done around this house has definitely been, you know, I mean, approached from an artistic eye. I mean, not that I'm great at it or anything, but yeah, I mean, even just this past week, I've been working on our basement, and Michelle and I, for a long time, we were subscribers to this magazine, Dwell. It's sort of a modern architecture magazine, and
yeah,
and you know, we used to get ideas from that. It was all for rich
Yeah,
people, you know, and so a lot of the stuff is like, yeah, if you want to spend $12,000 on a lamp, but you know, you get cool ideas, and then you find somebody in your circle that's like, oh yeah, I'll make something kind of like that for some tattoo credit.
yeah.
Yeah. But and I do. Me and my wife, we do a lot of that. A lot of the walls I build are not necessarily perfectly straight square walls. They're normally octagonish or way different than like your typical room. Or because I bought a huge building in East Texas. It's like downtown, so we can turn it into our living space, and also my studio, my tattoo studio, and I'm able to just build my things the way I'd want to build them, which are not normal.
Yeah, well, that's always fun, right? Why be normal?
Yeah, no, because it adds more something to look at. And like I use a lot of cedar, the live edge cedar, for my countertops and my trim instead of just regular normal trim. And the baseboards and stuff like that, or a lot of crown molding, different types of stuff like that. I love doing that finish work and that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff.
For me, yeah, I deal with a lot of carpenters, and they're like, "Man, I hate that stuff." Like that's
because you got to be the most careful, right?
Yeah, you got to keep everything really clean. You want your edges to be your 45s or your, everything that goes together. If I was to choose anything in construction, it'd be doing counter kitchens or trim work or finish work on that kind of stuff.
I would think the reason being is you're approaching it from an artistic standpoint, and the people who say they don't like doing that stuff, they're not approaching it from an artistic standpoint.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense.
They're just looking at it as hard.
Yeah, but it's satisfying. I mean, it's hard, but it's satisfying to do it right and have it done. I think the process of trying to figure out how to do it, because almost all the crazy walls or things that I try to make in that sector, you're not going to have like just a 45. It's going to be like a 15-degree angle or a 12 or a 12 and a half, just to make it match all the way through and look well. Which that would probably be the hard part, I guess.
It's funny, you know, when I do stuff like that, I often am so ghetto about it. I'll just you know, hold the boards and, you know, and in the angle that I think will look good and kind of make a rough mark, and just, you know, by the time everything's all said and done, I figure I can hide all that stuff behind drywall and just make it look smooth.
Well, the drywall and stuff, yeah, that's when you're framing, you can get away with doing some stuff, not so. But a lot of my countertops are just 2 pieces of cedar put together with a live edge.
Right,
and you want to try to make that. Yeah, you got to try to make that live edge meet up real good and like look seamless. But you only have one chance, so I'll do like several cuts on just regular piece of wood to try to find my angle, so I can make sure that the top one, the finish, has got good full seams, or they go together well and they don't have gaps or anything like that. I would say my sheetrock work and my framing work is probably not the greatest. I'll hide. I'm like, oh, look at that gap. I'll just go ahead and put a bunch of mud in there.
Yeah, well, you can do that. That's the thing. And sheetrock is just such a miserable thing. Might as well get through it. Just do whatever it takes to get through
it. Yeah, definitely. Have you seen sheetrock? There's artists that will people that do like scenes with the mud.
Yes, I saw somebody who did a pretty big, very vertical mural that way. It was sort of like the old Japanese block print kind of look with, you know, bridges and very tall, you know, tree-covered mountains rising out of the mist and then disappearing back into it. And it was, yeah, the relief effect was really cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. I've seen a few done with some animals and a few other things, some horses and stuff. They sculpted them out of like just piles of mud. And then,
there's also this artist that I couldn't tell you his real name, but on Insta he goes by Surface System, and he does crazy, almost bio looking stuff that it just smoothly flows up out of a wall and then turns into a series of these ribs with like lights hidden in them and stuff like that. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's the kind of stuff I want to do on. I mean, I've only had this building I'm in for a couple of years, so I've really only been focusing on my studio and getting that ready. But I have plans for certain rooms and areas that I'll do big vaulted like ceilings, but instead of them being normal straight edges, they'll be more organic, kind of like HR did in his house. A lot of, you know, HR Giger guy, is it?
Giger, yeah.
Giger. I don't know if you've seen like a lot of his furniture is custom made by him. He made himself.
Right. Yeah.
It's real organic and it's really cool looking, and it's not typical.
No, it's also not something you could easily make either. You have to have skills and resources.
Yeah. I want to do a bunch of stuff like that. And then stained glass on all the windows. Handmade stained glass, just the images design. Something else I like to try to do.
Yeah, that is one thing about this house is it's extremely quirky and handmade looking everywhere you look. You know, it's not ritzy at all. You know, it's filled with art and sculpture, and even the architectural aspects of it are very quirky because, you know, we've either handled it ourselves or worked with friends who were down with our quirky ideas.
Yeah.
And we've never really worried about resale value because I'd hate to let that slow us down.
Yeah, well, that I think is going to be better because I mean things change. I think something like that could potentially sell for more to somebody that's into that. You might only have a certain group of people that would be interested in it, but
Yeah, well, the main
Go
thing
ahead.
is I don't have any interest in leaving, so you know we're pretty dug in here, so we can completely throw all caution to the wind and not worry about resale value.
I think that's the same boat I'm in. I don't intend on ever leaving.
All right, so Nick, where are you at now? Process
Final
wise.
5 minutes here.
Yeah.
Doing some blades of grass in the foreground, and they're gonna call it done in a sec here.
Yeah. I also noticed that right up against that rock face, and maybe you had done this earlier and I just didn't notice it. Seems like you've gotten some brighter highlights in the water. Is that a
Here?
recent addition? Yeah,
Here,
like
here.
basically the contrast between the water and the rock face just heightened. Is that a kind of a recent thing? You're going through and adding highlights in the water?
Up here, I left it. I put more highlights down here.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see it up a little closer when you're done with your final 5 minutes.
Yeah, just doing some blades of grass down here in the corner, and then that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
Always like
Dimitri,
landscape images that show the distant all the way to the foreground, like right almost like in front of your feet.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll try to throw in like a little corner, like down here, how I have this like foreground in the corner, just because it gives that illusion of scale and depth.
Yeah. And you don't even need that much of it, just a reference point.
Yep.
Billy from Scotland's hanging in till the end.
Right on. It's got to be almost sun up over there.
Frankie says stained glass is so nice. That's cool. Hector says saludo desde Mexico.
Right on.
Frankie says Lakeview, big flex.
I'm back as well.
Oh, right on. Welcome back. So yeah, I don't have a lake view, but Nick, we actually exposed, we cut down some trees and we can see our pond now from our house, which is kind of nice. And
yeah,
it's
that's
obviously not this kind of a scene, but at least we got some water there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you guys still have like a beaver going down?
Oh yeah, yeah. The beavers are still active. I'm guessing it's the same family, and yeah, they still wreck stuff.
Does that get on your nerves, or is that something that you just allow to happen?
You know, the trees, the specific trees that we don't want them to fuck up, we wrap them in tin foil. That's all it takes.
Really?
Oh.
Yep.
Just at the bottom or wherever.
Yeah, just like 18 inches of it. That's all you need. And we've wrapped like some dogwood trees with tin foil for 5 years, and you know, the beavers will come up to it and be like, "Oh man, I wanted to eat this," but they just leave it alone. And beyond that, you know, I mean, I like having them around, and even though they're not always convenient, and sometimes they'll, you know, do stuff to the landscape that isn't wonderful, but you know, I don't want to be a control freak about it either, because this is wilderness, right? And and they're cool, you know, like it'll be 2 a.m. and I'm walking up from the studio in the middle of winter and I hear and then all of a sudden, out of the cold, you hear the tree come down. It's like, man, you got him right when he was in the middle of the kill. And then we also have a family of vultures, and they're probably a little bit more noticeable. Like if many people who've been to hyperspace have had the vultures hang out like on the studio stoop the entire time they're getting tattooed. And
cool.
They're pretty neat. They
Waiting for somebody to keel over.
Yeah.
They won't bug you if you're alive, but yeah, like one guy was once just kind of laying there waiting for me to finish pouring color. It's a beautiful morning, so he's just laying on the cement, and the vultures actually like gathered along the edge of the building, just looked down at him, and they're like, "Oh no, he moved."
Yeah. They didn't get lunch that day.
But they would live 50, 60 years, and they mate for life. And it's very likely the same vulture family that's been here the whole time. And so even though they poop on the stoop, I'm still happy to have them around because I just think they're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel the same way about the nature too, but here you hear a lot of people complaining about the damage from beavers and stuff.
There's definitely damage. I mean, when the beavers first showed up and they started, wrecking stuff, and then they took over our second pond. And I was like, okay, that's enough. You got both ponds. So we ended up getting a trapper, and, Michelle and I I mean, I've been meatless since 98, and so it's a big deal for us to do this. But this guy supposedly relocated all the beavers that he caught, in such a way that they could find each other. Now, I don't know if that's actually what really happened, but 6 months later, we had beavers again. And so it was at the point I just had to accept that this is a place that beavers are going to be. And as it turns out, their effect on the landscape has, once they got past a certain point of damage, it didn't seem to get any worse. So yeah, it's just, it doesn't look like it's manicured and under control, but that's not what we're going for here. This is, this is the Shawnee National Forest. We've got our little moat area around our yard, and the rest of it, we kind of just let it do its thing.
Yeah, we have a lot of pretty random growth in Texas. Well, we're in East Texas, and Austin, not so much.
It's hard for me to even imagine Nick not being in Austin. He was an East Coast guy once upon a time.
Yeah.
That's when I started following him.
Connecticut?
Yeah, before he came to Texas.
Yeah, I have no desire to not be in the Austin area. So
I actually called you a long time ago. I don't know how long ago, at your studio, wherever you worked. I don't even remember where you worked, because I was just curious. I mean, I was trying to figure out how to do really good tattoos, but your tattoos were just amazing. They've always been amazing. That's how do you get it so saturated? I think your answer was no mercy.
Yeah.
He's like, that's really all I can say. I really don't know what else to say. I was like, okay, well, I don't mean to be a fangirl or whatever, but definitely was trying to figure out. There was when probably around when I first started, when mostly the work that I found was, or the way I could study was through like tattoo magazines. and just finding other artists through magazines and stuff like that, because there wasn't really much social media. I think that's how I found you. I just was curious. Now you can just go on Instagram and you can just look at people's work.
Or YouTube or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the magazines have almost disappeared. You know, we've got Tattoo Society, but other than that, they've it's hard to remain relevant when you know everybody's getting an update once a day or many times a day, right there in their pocket.
Yeah, you don't go out and buy them like you used to.
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, my painting's done.
All right. Let's see it up close here. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, the rocks in the foreground look almost photographic. I've seen on my screen here. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's killer, man.
Well, I'll
yeah,
just
and I
quit
love the
now.
color gradient. The palette of the sky and water is just really pleasing. You know, it's not a over the top sunset at all, but it's really got just enough warmth to you know, give it a nice feeling. Very, very tranquil.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for sharing with us tonight, Nick. I hope we can do a still life with you at some point.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Right on. Yeah, we'll talk privately about that. Figure out the right time. Yeah, this winter we gotta keep this stuff going.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, thanks so much for doing this, and thank you everyone who showed up tonight and painted, and anyone who tuned in and just enjoyed listening to the banter here. I hope everyone learned something and got a little bit better at making your art. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Once again, we got Jake Meeks in the morning. I'll try to pop in for the back end of that, but I'll definitely see you all tomorrow night for our geological flow exercise at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And,
Thanks, everybody. I'm clicking the end meeting all button.
Right on. Thank